Fang Yuan had the upper hand for now, but it could not sustain him for much longer. Exchanging blows back and forth, he was already panting in exhaustion. In contrast, Gao Wan's breathing was still smooth and in sync, reflecting the huge difference in stamina between the two. At the same time, as Gao Wan exercised his limbs, his body gradually heated up while his punching speed became faster and faster. The effect of the cold that caused him to be slow and numb had worn off, displaying the true skills honed by his training for decades. Lad, you are unable to beat me. There are clan rules stating that within the school hostel, you are forbidden from using the moonlight goo. You are dead meat, doomed to be my captive. Gao Wan laughed maniacally. His fighting experience was rich, so he attempted to use words to cause Fang Yuan's fighting spirit to waver. In the end, I'm only just a teenager, and my body that hasn't fully developed cannot be compared to this servant. Fang Yuan's state of mind was calm as ice. Having sharpened his will for 500 years, there was no way his fighting spirit would waver. Moonlight Goo, he called out in his mind, activating his primeval essence and at the same time leaping backwards to pull away from Gao Wan. Gao Wan wanted to chase after him, but he suddenly saw a watery blue light emitting from Fang Yuan's palm. His face darkened and he shouted, "Lad, you are using the goo worm to fight in the school hostel. This is against the clan rules." "So what if I break the rules?" Fang Yuan sneered. He learnt the clan rules and memorized it to heart, but it was not for the sake of obeying it. Immediately, his palm slashed an arc towards Gao Wan. With a ching sound, the blue moonblade flew towards Gao Wan's face. Gao Wan gritted his teeth as he raised both arms to cover his face, forming a protective shield. At the same time, he rushed towards Fang Yuan without pause, planning to endure the attack while ending the battle as quickly as he could. The moonblade struck his arm. With a popping sound, his flesh and blood poured out under the moonlight, a wave of extreme pain hitting Gao Wan's nerves. The unguarded man nearly fainted from the pain. How can this be? His rush towards Fang Yuan stopped, and he frightfully found out that both his limbs had been cut open with a deep wound. Fresh blood oozed out from the wound and from the side, while bloody muscles could be observed hanging around his flesh. Even the broken white bones of the forearm could be seen. Gao Wan was shocked beyond words. This is impossible. A rank 1 initial stage moonblade, the most it could do is to lightly injure my flesh. How could it cut through my bones? Only a rank 1 middle stage can do this. He had no idea. While Fang Yuan was a rank 1 initial stage goo master, due to the liquor worm's refining, he possessed rank 1 middle stage primeval essence. The moonlight goo, activated using middle stage primeval essence, emitted a moonblade far superior to the initial stage that he originally predicted. This is bad, this boy is weird. Gao Wan, who was caught off guard, had already suffered a grave injury. His fighting spirit was gone, and he decisively decided to retreat. "Are you able to escape?" Fang Yuan smiled coldly as he started to give chase, the moonblades in his hands shooting out consecutively. "Save me!" Gao Wan shouted out in horror as he fled, his voice traveling far out beyond the school hostel. "What is going on? Someone is asking for help." The voice alerted the school hostel guards who were nearby. "It's the Mo family's young miss, Mo Yan's servant." The guards who arrived stopped in their tracks upon seeing the chasing scene. "This is only a servant. There is no need for us to risk protecting him. Letting him stay here was already a favor towards the Mo family. We still have to be careful, just in case he hurts Fang Yuan in desperation." The anxious guards all gathered around, but no one lent a hand to Gao Wan. They only observed from the sidelines. This servant Gao Wan, even if he died, it had nothing to do with them. However, if Fang Yuan died or got hurt, it would be their responsibility. Seeing such a sight, Gao Wan despaired. He tragically screamed, "We are all outsiders. You cannot leave me to die." His blood loss was getting more severe, and his speed decreased. Fang Yuan caught up to him, his voice cold as ice, announcing Gao Wan's death sentence. "Go ahead and scream. It doesn't matter how loud you do so." While saying that, the blade in his arm rotated, and he fired 2 moon blades towards Gao Wan. Swoosh, swoosh. The moon blades flew towards Gao Wan's neck. The servant lost all hope, seemingly 1 step away into the abyss. The next moment he felt that his world was spinning. He actually saw his own feet, chest, back, and that severed neck. Afterwards, total darkness awaited him. Gao Wan had died. Beheaded by 2 moon blades, his head flew away from the impact. His body pushed back 10 meters before falling. The neck area spewed out a fountain of fresh blood, dyeing the surrounding grass a blood red. Murder! Fang Yuan killed someone. The guards could not help but scream out. They had witnessed the entire process, and they felt a sense of extreme trepidation and terror rushing all over their body. Fang Yuan was just a weak 15-year-old teenager, but he expressionlessly murdered a strong adult. This was the power of a Gu master. The victory had been set. Fang Yuan slowed in his footsteps and gradually moved towards the corpse. His face was calm, as if he had done nothing out of the ordinary. This expression further sent a shiver down the guards' spines. Gao Wan's head lay on the ground, both his eyes wide open, turning in his grave. Fang Yuan stared coldly. He raised his leg and sent the head flying. The guards' eyelids twitched. Fang Yuan approached the corpse and found that it was still vibrating. The blood spread through the ground, forming a small, bloody puddle. He looked at Gao Wan's injuries with a grim expression. These injuries were deep enough to expose the secret to the fact that he had middle-stage primeval essence. Once this was exposed, it'll be quickly deduced that he had a liquor worm, and with that the family would naturally think of the flower wine monk. Thus, Fang Yuan had to keep this secret hidden. But there are too many onlookers. Fang Yuan's gaze swept through the nearby guards. There was more than 10 of them. He had less than 10% primeval essence left, so there was no way to kill them all. After pondering for a while, Fang Yuan bent down and raised Gao Wan's ankle, dragging the corpse away. "Young Master Fang Yuan, you can leave this to us." The guards controlled their fear and approached Fang Yuan, politely speaking. The respect and politeness held a tint of obvious fear. Fang Yuan silently looked at the guards, and they all held their breaths, looking down. "Give me the saber," he stretched out his hand and lightly said. With authority in his speech, he emitted undeniable pressure. The guard closest to him, uncontrollably, handed him the saber on his waist. Fang Yuan took the saber over and continued walking, leaving behind a dozen stunned guards staring after his back. The sun rose from the east, and the first ray of light shone over the mountain peak, lighting up the school hostel. 15-year-old Fang Yuan, with the scrawny body of a teenager, a pale look upon his skin. Under the sunrise, he casually walked. In his left hand was a shiny saber. In his right hand, a headless corpse. His path left behind a trail of bright red blood traces dragged out on the road. The guards were flabbergasted, their bodies stiff due to the frightening scene. Even as the sunlight shone on them, they could not feel a sense of warmth and light. Gulp! Someone among them swallowed their saliva loudly. "Did you guys hear? Fang Yuan killed someone," a student whispered to his classmate beside him. "I heard it too, he really killed somebody." The classmate clenched his chest with a pale face. There were many guards who saw him do it. Fang Yuan was chasing after that man. That guy tried to beg for mercy, but Fang Yuan paid him no heed and decapitated him immediately. That's not all. After killing him, Fang Yuan didn't even spare his headless corpse. He dragged it back to the hostel and chopped it into a meat paste. "Are you for real?" "I'm serious beyond belief. I came early this morning, and I could still see the bloodstains left between the cracks of the green rock." Oh man, why would I lie to you? Earlier, the academy elder called Fang Yuan over for this matter. The youths in the academy did not pay attention to class as they held their little conversations. To this group of 15-year-olds, the concept of killing was too foreign and too scary. They had been under the protection of the clan since a young age and had at most experienced organized sparring or simply killing chickens and dogs. As for killing a person, it was still beyond them. Who did Fang Yuan kill? I heard it was a family servant of the Mo branch family. Yup, I'm the clearest about this matter. Yesterday, I personally saw the Mo family's Mo Yan bring a bunch of family servants to find trouble with Fang Yuan. The Mo family, that's not good. Mo Bei is in trouble now. A number of the youths turned to look at Gu Yue Mo Bei. Mo Bei sat on his seat with a pale face. He had only heard about the news of Fang Yuan killing someone this morning. Additionally, it was the Gao Wan that Mo Bei was familiar with. As one of the more energetic family servants, Gao Wan was good at boot-licking and had also put effort into his fighting skills. He was an able lackey. A long while ago, Gao Wan had even sparred with Mo Bei for a bit. To think that he was simply killed by Fang Yuan. It was precisely because of this that Mo Bei felt astonished. He was full of disbelief and felt twice the shock compared to the others. However, compared to his shock, he felt a greater sense of worry and fear. Facing a murderer like Fang Yuan, it would be a lie if Mo Bei said that he was not afraid. Actually, it was not just him, the other youngsters were afraid too. When Fang Yuan had robbed them twice previously, all of them had gotten physical with him. I actually fought with such a ruthless murderer, to think that I'm actually still alive. Many of them patted their chest, feeling a lingering fear. Fang Yuan killing someone was still somewhat acceptable, but the crux was that he even dissected the corpse and chopped the body into meat paste. That was way too cruel. The truth of such a horrifying crime had a strong impact on all of the youth's pure and innocent minds. Within the room, there was only the academy elder and Fang Yuan. The academy elder sat while Fang Yuan stood. Neither of them spoke a word, causing the atmosphere to be extremely tense. The academy elder silently looked at Fang Yuan, and a hint of complication flashed in his eyes. In the morning, the guards had reported to him about Fang Yuan's murder incident. This news had made him feel both shocked and suspicious. He was a rank 3 Gu master and was in charge of the academy. He obviously knew the fighting strength of a rank 1 initial stage Gu master. Fang Yuan being able to kill Gao Wan was like the weak defeating the strong. In truth, some guards had already reported to him that Mo Yan had trapped Fang Yuan within the academy by barging in the previous night. Back then, he had not paid attention to the matter and had not stopped them. He was the academy elder. His objective was to nurture future Gu masters, not to protect them. As long as there were no deaths among the students, he encouraged hidden conflicts. Mo Yan coming to find trouble with Fang Yuan was something that he was happy to see. For one, he knew that regardless of whether the fight was won or lost, it would be beneficial to Fang Yuan's growth. Secondly, he wanted to suppress Fang Yuan's influence. Fang Yuan had consecutively blocked the academy's gates and robbed the other students. His influence was too great, it had to be suppressed. However, he hadn't expected that Mo Yan would return fruitlessly, and that the family servant that she had left behind would be unable to beat Fang Yuan. Gao Wan even got killed by him. In this world, strength was above all else. Killing someone was not something peculiar. Especially to a Gu master, it was something very common. But it was not so simple when it was a 15-year-old's first kill. The academy elder vividly remembered his first killing scene. Back then, he was already a rank 2 Gu master. At the age of 19, he had killed a Gu master from the Bai clan's village in a conflict. After killing the person, he vomited profusely and panicked in his heart. For a few days, he had no mood to eat and had no appetite. He could not even find peace in his sleep. The moment he shut his eyes, he would see the dead person staring angrily at him. But looking at Fang Yuan now, his face was calm as ice. Where was the fluster? Not to mention that he had no uneasy feelings. It was almost like he had slept perfectly well last night, as if the person who killed a man was not him at all. Especially when the academy elder heard more about the matter. After Fang Yuan had killed the servant, he did not spare the corpse and had even dragged it back to the dormitory to chop it into meat paste in his rage. Such vicious methods, even hearing about it was a kind of terror. Thus, at this point, the academy elder looked at Fang Yuan with complicated emotions. On one hand, he was amazed at Fang Yuan's indifference towards life. His attitude was as steady and as cold as ice. On the other hand, he was appreciative of the fact that Fang Yuan was a born battle freak. After familiarizing himself with the moonlight goo for a few days, he had managed to kill someone with it. An ordinary teenager, even those grade talents, may not be able to achieve this. This was a talent for battle. If he was well nurtured and fought for the clan, it would be all of their enemies' nightmare. Lastly, he felt worry and distressed. Worry because after this incident, Fang Yuan's reputation was sure to rise, and it would be impossible to suppress him. Fang Yuan was way too daring. Not only did he disobey the clan rules by using his goo in the academy, he even killed someone with it. There was a need to suppress his influence. Otherwise, how would the elder be able to manage this academy anymore? Distress was because he did not know how to perfectly resolve this issue. After all, it involved the Mo family's side. Fang Yuan, do you know why I called you here to meet me? The academy elder used a solemn and deep voice to break the silence in the room. I know. Fang Yuan nodded and replied, I used the moonlight goo in the academy, breaking the clan rules. According to the rules, as it is my first offense, I should compensate 30 pieces of primeval stones as punishment. He evaded the crucial point and did not mention Gao Wan's death. The academy elder was stunned for a second. He had not expected that Fang Yuan would answer like this. His expression darkened as he coldly snapped, Don't try to blur things in front of me. I'll ask you, what was the matter with Gao Wan's death? Fang Yuan squinted his eyes and said, HMPH, this Gao Wan went against his superiors. His intentions were vicious. Last night, not only did he block my room door, he even tried to kill me. In self-defense, I was forced to use the moonlight goo. Fortunately, I managed to kill this traitor. I suspect that there is a high possibility of him being a spy of the other mountain villages. I implore the elders to investigate this thoroughly. Upon hearing this, the academy elder frowned and became at a loss for words. Now that Gao Wan was dead, Fang Yuan could say whatever he wanted. After all, Gao Wan was just an outsider, not a member of the clan. Even if he was dead, it would not matter to the academy elder. However, he was worried about the Mo family's reaction. Gao Wan was their servant and he had died within the academy. The academy elder was in charge of the academy and had to give the Mo family an explanation. Thinking for a bit, the academy elder stared at Fang Yuan and questioned, Then let me ask you, Gao Wan's corpse, how did you deal with it? Fang Yuan's lips curled, revealing a cruel smile. I diced Gao Wan's corpse and put it inside a wooden box. When morning came, I put it at the Mo family's back door. What? The academy elder was stunned beyond words as he almost jumped from his seat. Not only did Fang Yuan kill their family servant, he had even chopped up the corpse and placed it at the Mo family's back door. This was blatant provocation. To the academy elder who was trying to resolve this peacefully, it was a true nightmare. Fang Yuan was just a small rank 1 goo master. How would the large Mo family react? Thinking of this, the academy elder felt a headache as the matter had already developed out of his control. This Fang Yuan was a true troublemaker. Since it has already happened, there's no point in saying any more. Leave first, the punishment will come within these few days. You should get mentally prepared. The academy elder was terribly upset. He waved his hand and signaled for Fang Yuan to leave. He needed to think through this calmly to come up with a solution. Meanwhile, at the Mo family. What were my instructions to you? See what you did. In the study room, Gu Yue Mo Chen slammed the table, exploding with a rage. Mo Yan stood opposite this old man, her head lowered. Her eyes were full of shock and rage. She had also just gotten the news that Gao Wan had been killed by Fang Yuan. That 15-year-old teenager, to think he had such methods and determination. Gao Wan was the proud servant of her Mo family, and Fang Yuan's act of killing him was a blatant showing of disrespect towards them. Grandpa, you don't have to be so angry. This Gao Wan was only a servant. His death is of no concern. He isn't a Gu Yue clan member anyways. But that Fang Yuan, he is too daring. You have to look at the owner before you beat the dog. Not only did he beat our dog, but he even beat it to death, Mo Yan said indignantly. Gu Yue Mo Chen furiously scowled. You still have the cheeks to say that. Have your wings grown so tough now that you don't even put my words to heart, What I told you before, you have forgotten all about it. Your granddaughter dares not. Mo Yan jumped in shock. She knew now that her grandfather was really angry and quickly kneeled down. Gu Yue Mo Chen pointed his finger out the window and scolded. HMPH, so what if that servant died? But now you are still showing hostility towards Fang Yuan. This is really a matter of you being short-sighted and unclear of the implications. Do you know the significance of your actions? The fight among juniors is their own business. As elders, we should not interfere. These are the rules. Now that you want to find trouble with Fang Yuan, it means you are breaking the rules. I can't tell how many people are out there now, looking at this disgrace of our Mo family. Grandpa, please calm down. Anger will harm your body. It's Mo Yan's fault I burdened the Mo family. Whatever Grandpa tells Mo Yan to do, Mo Yan will do it. But your granddaughter really cannot take this lying down. That Fang Yuan is too despicable, too shameless. First, he lied to me and entered the academy. Next, he hid in the dormitory, and no matter how much I scolded him, he would not come out. Once I left, he went ahead and killed Gao Wan. He is extremely sinister and despicable, Mo Yan reported. Oh, is that so? Gu Yue Mo Chen frowned. This was the first time he had heard this information, and a bright light shone across his eyes. He took in a deep breath, suppressing his rage, and he stroked his beard while saying, I've heard stories about this Fang Yuan. In his early years, he was able to make poems and songs, showing early intelligence. But to think that he only had C-grade talent. It was difficult for him to have a good future, and thus I gave up on recruiting him. But now it seems that it's slightly interesting. Pausing for a second, Gu Yue Mo Chen knocked on the table and ordered, Someone, bring that box over here. The servant outside the door quickly obeyed. Soon, he brought in a box. The box was neither too big nor too small, but it was slightly heavy. The servant used both hands to carry it and stood beside the study table. Grandpa, what is this? Mo Yan stared at the wooden box and asked doubtfully. Why don't you open it and take a look? Gu Yue Mo Chen squinted his eyes and said in a complicated tone. Mo Yan stood up, flipped over the wooden lid and looked inside. Immediately, her facial expression changed and her pupils shrunk to a needle-like size. She could not help but take a step back and let loose an unsuppressed scream. The wooden lid in her hand also fell to the ground. Without the wooden lid, the thing kept within the wooden box was shown to everyone present. It was actually a pile of flesh and blood. The bloody flesh was obviously sliced off piece by piece and placed into the box. Bright scarlet blood had accumulated inside. There was some pale skin and flesh, while some were long strands of intestines, mixed in with a few pieces of bones, either leg bones or the ribs. In the pool of blood at a corner, there were also 2 fingers and half a toe floating in it. Bleck. Mo Yan's beautiful face changed color as she took another step backwards. her stomach turning as she almost vomited on the spot. She was rank 2 Gu Master and had gone out to gain experience before. Despite that, this was the first time that she had seen such a disgusting and twisted scene, even though she had killed people before. The flesh and blood in this box were obviously the corpse of a person, after being minced into pieces and stuffed in. The scent of blood burst into the air and rapidly permeated the air immediately, filling the entire study room. Both of the family's servants' hands shook as he carried the box, his complexion pale. Although he had seen the box earlier and vomited before, he could still feel waves of palpitation and disgust as he held it now. Among the 3 people in the study room, only the family elder Gu Yue Mo Chen was unfazed. He lightly looked at the contents of the box for a moment and said to Mo Yan slowly, "This box was what Fang Yuan had placed at our family's back door this morning." What, it's really him? Mo Yan was extremely shocked as images of Fang Yuan showed up in her mind. The first time she saw Fang Yuan, it was at the inn. At that time, Fang Yuan sat near the window, quietly eating his meal. His facial features were bland and both of his eyes were dark and gloomy. His body was thin and his skin had the special paleness of a teenager. He looked like such a normal and quiet youth. To think that he had done such a twisted and insane act. After her initial shock came a furious rage. Mo Yan yelled, "This Fang Yuan is too outrageous. Who gave him the guts to do so? To dare to do such a thing, this is a provocation towards our Mo family. I will go ahead now and bring him here to question him for his crimes." After she said this, she headed towards the exit. "You scoundrel, stop right there." Gu Yue Mo Chen was angrier than she was as he grabbed an ink slab on his study desk and threw it over. The hard and heavy ink slab hit Mo Yan's shoulder, and with a bang it fell to the ground. "Grandpa!" Mo Yan held her shoulder as she called out in alarm. Gu Yue Mo Chen stood up, his finger pointing at his granddaughter as he spoke with an extremely agitated tone. "It seems like all these years of training were in vain. You have disappointed me greatly. Against a small rank 1 initial stage Gu Master, not to mention you involving so many people, but even getting led by the nose by the other party. Now that you've let your rage get the better of you at this point, do you still not understand the meaning behind Fang Yuan's actions?" "What meaning?" Mo Yan was puzzled. Gu Yue Mo Chen snorted. "If Fang Yuan wanted to provoke us, he would have blown up this matter. So, why did he place this box at the secluded back door instead of placing it at the front door where there are many people walking around? Maybe he wants to reconcile with us. No, if he wanted to reconcile, wouldn't it be better to apologize face to face? Why must he send us this box of minced corpse? This is definitely a provocation," Mo Yan said. Gu Yue Mo Chen shook his head, then nodded. "He wants to reconcile, but at the same time he is also provoking us. Placing the wooden box at the back door is his intention to reconcile. Placing the corpse inside the box, that is a provocation. You see," the old man pointed at the box and spoke, "this wooden box is not big and it cannot hold a complete corpse. Therefore there can only be a portion of the corpse inside. He is trying to tell us that he does not wish to blow up this matter and wants to settle this amicably. But if our Mo family wants to pursue this matter, he will place the remainder of the corpse at our main entrance, thoroughly blowing up the issue. By that time, it would be a losing situation for both sides. The entire clan knows that our Mo family broke the rules first, and to our Mo family's future head, this would be seen as him being so weak since he actually required his elders' doting and protection." Upon hearing these words, Mo Yan was momentarily dumbfounded. She had never expected that Fang Yuan's actions would have such profound meaning. "His method is really wise," Gu Yue Mo Chen said with admiration. "With just one action, he exercised both toughness and softness, capable of advancing and retreating safely. This is just a simple wooden box, but it not only expresses Fang Yuan's intention to compromise, but also his ability to pose a threat to our Mo family. and it so happens that he does hold onto the weakness of our Mo family. If the Mo family's reputation is tarnished, what follows after will be the Kai family's attack as well as the assault from the clan leader's side. Mo Yan found it unbelievable. Grandpa, aren't you thinking too highly of him? Are you sure that he's capable of this? He is only 15 years old. Too highly? Mo Chen looked at his granddaughter unhappily. Looks like you've had too smooth a life in these past few years. Fostering your arrogant attitude, you are unable to clearly see the reality. This Fang Yuan was unfazed towards danger and deceived you to enter the school. Next, he used his wisdom in the face of danger and hid within the dormitory to avoid trouble. No matter what insult you threw at him, he did not respond. This is his ability to calmly endure. After you left, he killed Gao Wan immediately. This is his bravery and courage. Now he sent this box, clearly showing his wisdom and planning ability. Can you still say that I thought of him too highly? Mo Yan listened with wide eyes as she had not expected her grandfather to praise Fang Yuan so highly. Immediately she said indignantly, "Grandpa, he only has a C-grade talent." Gu Yue Mo Chen sighed deeply. Yes, he is only a C-grade. Having such wisdom and yet only C-grade talent, it really is a pity. As long as his talent was higher, even if it was just a B grade, he would certainly become an influential member of our Gu Yue clan. What a pity, he is only a C grade. The old man's sigh was full of emotion. His sigh held both regret and at the same time rejoice. Mo Yan was silent, and in her mind, Fang Yuan's image appeared once again. Under her psychological influence, Fang Yuan's frail expression was shrouded by a layer of mysterious and vicious shadow. This problem was created by you single-handedly. How are you going to settle it? Gu Yue Mo Chen broke the silence as he started to test Mo Yan. Mo Yan pondered for a while before she replied in a cold and aloof tone. Gao Wan was just a servant, so there are no implications even if he dies. Fang Yuan is just a C grade, so he is also a small matter. What's important is maintaining my Mo family's reputation. To appease this matter, we might as well kill Gao Wan's entire family to show the entire clan our attitude to protect the rules and regulations. You're able to think of the big picture. Setting aside your personal emotions to defend the interests of family, this is very good. However, your method is still flawed. Gu Yue Mo Chen analyzed her response. Please enlighten me, Grandpa, Mo Yan implored. Gu Yue Mo Chen said solemnly, this matter was instigated by you, so I shall punish you with 7 days of confinement. From now on, do not find trouble with Fang Yuan again. Gao Wan defied his superiors. A servant who dares to offend his master deserves death, so he should have been executed for his crimes. Because he is a servant of the Mo family, we are responsible for our inability to educate our subordinate, and thus we shall compensate that Fang Yuan with 30 primeval stones. As for Gao Wan's family members, give them 50 primeval stones as compensation and expel them from the clan. After a short pause, he continued, for the next 7 days rest well at home, do not go out. At the same time, think about the profound meaning of why Grandpa chose to handle the matter this way. Yes, Grandpa. From the layers of dark clouds in the sky, the spring rain fell. The raindrops were thin like hair. As they fell, they enveloped Qingmao Mountain in a layer of fine mist. The dining hall on the first floor of the inn was rather empty. There were only 4 tables of guests. Fang Yuan sat at a seat by the window. A gust of wind blew, bringing with it a poetic atmosphere and the scent of flowers. The light rain from the sky is sleek and crisp. The color of grass is seen from afar, but disappears when close. Fang Yuan looked outside through a window and quoted a poem lightly before he turned his sights back to the inn. Before him was a table filled with good wine and dishes. The color, smell, and taste were all top-notch, especially the green bamboo wine which oozed with the fragrance of alcohol along with a hint of freshness. The dark green-colored liquor sat quietly in the bamboo cup. From his angle, it shone with an amber-like luster. A grandfather and his grandson were sitting at the table nearest to him. Being mortal humans, they wore modest clothes. The grandfather sipped his rice wine while looking enviously at Fang Yuan. He was evidently attracted to the green bamboo wine but could not afford it. The grandson ate his braised beans, a crunching sound emitting from his mouth as he chewed. At the same time, he pestered his grandfather, shaking his arm. "Grandpa, Grandpa, tell me about the story of Ren Zhu. If you don't tell me, I'll report to Grandma that you secretly came out to drink." "Sai, I can't even drink in peace." The grandfather sighed, but his face showed a doting expression towards the child. With his twig-like arm, he patted the boy's head. "Then let me tell you the story of Ren Zhu, who gave his heart to the Hope Gu, escaping his predicament of being captured." Ren Zhu's story was the most popular and widespread tale in this world, as well as the most ancient legend. The old man's story was something like this. The story mentioned that Ren Zhu was able to escape his predicament because of hope. But eventually he grew old, and without strength and wisdom, he could no longer continue to hunt. Even his teeth fell off, making him unable to chew many wild fruits and vegetables. Ren Zhu felt death slowly approaching. At this time the Hope Gu said to him, "Human, you must not die. If you die, your heart will be lost and I will lose my only place of residence." Ren Zhu was helpless. "Who wishes to die? But if the heavens and earth want me dead, I have no choice." The Hope Gu said, "There's always hope in everything. As long as you can catch a longevity Gu, you will be able to increase your lifespan." Ren Zhu had heard of the existence of the longevity Gu long ago, but he waved his hand helplessly. When the longevity Gu stays still, nobody can detect it, and when it flies, it is faster than light. How can I possibly catch it? It's too hard. The Hope Gu then told Ren Zhu a secret. "Human, don't give up hope no matter what. Let me tell you, on the northwest corner of this continent, there is a huge mountain. On the mountain, there is a cave, and in that cave, there is a pair of round and square Gu worms. As long as you can subdue them, there is no Gu in this world that you cannot catch, including the longevity Gu." Ren Zhu had no choice. This was his last remaining hope. He braved all difficulties and finally found the mountain. He then risked his life and ventured through countless dangers to ascend the mountain. On the mountain top, near the cave entrance, he used his last remaining strength to slowly make his way in. The inside of the cave was completely dark, and one would not be able to even see their own fingers. Ren Zhu walked in the darkness. Sometimes, he would bump into things not knowing what they were. This caused himself to get injured and wounded all over. At times, he felt that this dark cave was huge beyond words, as if this was a world of its own. He felt as if he was the only person in the area. He spent a lot of time, but he could not walk out of the darkness, not to mention subduing the two Gu worms. Just when he was at a loss about what to do, two voices spoke to him from the darkness. One voice said, "Human, you're here to catch us. Go back, for even if you had the strength Gu, it would be impossible." The other said, "Human, go back, we will not take your life. Even if you had the wisdom Gu to help you, you may not be able to find us." Ren Zhu laid exhausted on the ground, panting. "The strength and wisdom Gu had left me long ago, and I do not have much lifespan left, so I'm at my wit's end. But as long as there's hope in my heart, I will not give up." Hearing Ren Zhu's words, the two voices went silent. After a while, one of the Gu said, "I understand, human. You have already given your heart to the Hope Gu. You will not give up no matter what." The other continued, "In that case, we shall give you a chance. As long as you can say our name, we will allow you to use us." Ren Zhu was stunned. To find their names among all the words in the world, it was akin to finding a needle in a haystack. Furthermore, he did not even know how many words were in their names. Ren Zhu quickly asked the Hope Gu, but it did not know either. Ren Zhu had no alternatives and had no choice but to randomly guess their names. He said many names and wasted a lot of time, but the darkness did not respond to him, so evidently he was wrong. Eventually, Renzu's breath got weaker as he turned from an old man into a dying man. It was like the scene of the evening setting sun. The sun that would slowly descending had already been lowered halfway across the horizon, becoming a sunset. The food he had brought was gradually reduced, his brain becoming slower, and he barely had any energy to speak anymore. The voice in the darkness urged, "Human, you are almost dead, so we will let you go. Using your remaining time, you can climb out of the cave and take a final look at the world. But you have offended us, and as punishment, the Hope Goo shall stay here as our companion." Renzu clenched his heart and rejected, "Even if I die, I will not give up hope." The Hope Goo was very touched and answered Renzu's call enthusiastically, emitting a bright light. At Renzu's chest area, a light began to shine. But this light was too weak. It could not illuminate the darkness. In fact, it could not even cover Renzu's entire body, but only engulfed his chest area. Yet Renzu could feel a renewed surge of energy gushing into his body from the Hope Goo. He continued to speak, shouting out names. But he was already muddled. A lot of names had already been said, but he could not remember that and repeated them, wasting a lot of effort in the process. As time continued to flow, Renzu's lifespan was almost over. Finally, when he was on his final day, he said out the word regulation. A sigh came from the darkness as a voice spoke. "Human, I admire your perseverance. You have said my name, so from today onwards I will obey your commands. But only with my brother can I aid you in capturing all the goo in the world. Otherwise, with my ability alone, it is impossible. Thus, you should give up. You're almost dead, you might as well use this chance to take a final look at the world." Renzu was determined and shook his head. He made use of all his time to continue saying out names as he tried to guess the other goo worm's name. Seconds and minutes went by, and soon he only had 1 hour left. But at this time, he unknowingly said the word rule. Immediately, the darkness dissipated. The two Gus appeared before him. As the Hope Goo had said, one was cubic, called regulations. The other was spherical, called rules. Together, they made up rules and regulations. The two Goo said together, "No matter who it is, as long as they know our names, we will listen to them. Human, since you know our names already, we will be at your service. But you must remember, it is important to not let others know of our names. The more people that know our names, the more people we have to obey them. Now that you are the first to subdue us, tell us your request." Renzu was overjoyed. "Then I order you both, go and catch me a longevity goo." The rules and regulations goo worked together and captured an 80-year longevity goo. Renzu was already 100 years old, but after consuming this goo, the wrinkles on his face vanished and his frail limbs became muscular again. A vibrant aura of youth oozed from him. With a belly flop, he jumped up onto his feet. He ecstatically looked at his body, knowing that he had regained the body of a 20-year-old. "That's all for today, let's go home, grandson." The old man, having completed the story, finished his wine as well. "Grandpa, continue telling me, what happens to Renzu after?" The grandson was unyielding as he shook his grandfather's arm. "Let's go, I'll tell you when there's another chance." The old man wore his straw hat and jacket, then gave his grandson another set that was a smaller size. The two walked out of the inn, stepping into the rain and slowly vanishing from sight. Rules and regulations. Fang Yuan's gaze was dark as he twirled his wine cup, looking at the liquor in his cup. His heart was touched. Renzu's legend was widespread throughout this world, and there were almost no people who did not know of him. Fang Yuan had naturally heard of him too. But no matter if it was a legend or a story, it was dependent on the knowledge of the reader. The grandfather and grandson earlier merely treated it as a story, but Fang Yuan could understand the deeper meaning. Just like that Ren Zhu. When he did not know the rules and regulations, he explored in the dark. Sometimes he bumped into things, knocking into others, causing himself to get injured and look like a mess. And at times within a wider area, he got lost and confused, moving without a sense of direction or purpose. This darkness was not purely black or the absence of light. Strength, wisdom, and hope could not oppose it. Only when Ren Zhu knew of the rules and regulations, and said their names, did the darkness dissipate and invite light into Ren Zhu's life. The darkness was the darkness of the rules and regulations, and the light was also the light of the rules and regulations. Fang Yuan switched his gaze from his cup and looked outside through the window. He saw that outside the window, the sky was still dark, the greenery abundant and the pelting rain flying by like mist. Close by, the bamboo tall houses were lined up in a row, extending far out. On the road, several people walked, their feet stained with the mud from the rain. Some of them wore grayish-green straw coats, while others carried yellow oiled cloth umbrellas. Fang Yuan concluded, "This world's heaven and earth is like a huge chess board. All life forms are chess pieces, acting in accordance with their rules and regulations. The 4 seasons have their own rules and regulations, rotating between spring, summer, autumn, and winter. The flow of water has its own rules and regulations, flowing from high ground to low ground. Hot air has its own rules and regulations, floating upwards. Humans naturally also have their own rules and regulations. Everybody has their own standpoints, desires, and principles. For example, in the Guyu village, the servants' lives are cheap while their masters' lives are noble. This is a part of rules and regulations. Because of this, Shen Kui, who wants to get close to the rich and affluent, is doing her best to try and escape her servant status. Gao Wan tried all means and methods to please his master, using their authorities for himself. As for uncle and aunt, they gave in to greed, wanting to hoard my parents' inheritance. The academy elder wants to nurture Gu masters to maintain his position in the academy. Everyone has their own rules and regulations. Every profession has its own rules and regulations, and every society and group also have their own rules and regulations. Only by understanding the rules and regulations can we see the situation clearly from the side. Gone with the darkness and embrace the light, moving around the rules with much to spare. Fang Yuan thought about his own situation, his heart already clear. To the Mo family's head Gu Yue Mo Chen, it is to protect his family branch's prosperity and benefits. Mo Yan found trouble with me, and that would be considered spoiling the rules, so for the sake of his family honor, he will not do anything to me. In fact, he might even compensate me. Actually, the Mo family has great influence, so if they risk their reputation and are bent on punishing me, there is nothing I can do to resist them. However, Gu Yue Mo Chen is afraid. He is not afraid of himself breaking the rules, but he is afraid that others will follow in his footsteps. In a junior scuffle, if the elders interfere, it would aggravate the situation. If it involved the higher-ups, it'd pose a threat to the entire mountain village. Gu Yue Mo Chen's fear lied here. What if in future conflicts, others laid their hands on his grandson Gu Yue Mo Bei? In his entire family line there's only one male, so what would happen if he died? This kind of fear, maybe he doesn't realize it himself. He is only subconsciously protecting the rules. Fang Yuan's eyes were clear as he had the perfect grasp and understanding of the matter from start till the end. Gao Wan's surname was not Gu Yue. Instead, he was an outsider, a servant. The master executing a servant was nothing to be alarmed about. In this world, it was normal. In the case of Fang Yuan killing Gao Wan's death was not crucial. The crucial part was his master, the Mo family behind him. However, Gu Yue Mo Chen should be able to understand my intention of compromise and threat from the time I sent a box of a minced corpse to them. This is also what I want him to think. If I'm not wrong, the Mo family will not pursue Gao Wan's death. Of course, If I had better talent and was at least a B grade, the Mo family would feel threatened. Even with the loss of their reputation, they would want to suppress a future threat such as myself. Fang Yuan snickered in his heart. Strength can be relied on, but weakness can also be used as an advantage. Although Fang Yuan was in the game of chess as a pawn, he was clear of the rules and regulations. Thus he already had the mentality of a player. An ordinary character would at most be like Gu Yue Mo Chen or the Academy Elder, also knowing their own rules and regulations, but unsure of their non-expertise. Being like Fang Yuan, who had a clear view of the big picture and was clear of rules and regulations, was extremely difficult. To understand rules and regulations, one has to be like Ren Zhu, stumbling around in the dark and wandering about aimlessly. At this point, strength, wisdom, and hope would be useless. One must spend a lot of time going through it themselves and gaining the experience. For Ren Zhu to be able to say out the names of the rules and regulations Gu, this was after spending time. Under the threat of death, he had tried countless of times. Fang Yuan was an expert in rules and regulations due to his 500 years of experience from past life. After his rebirth, he believed that he could create a brilliant future, not because of the spring and autumn cicada, not because he knew many secret troves and treasures, not because he knew what the future held, but because of the 500 years of experience that he had gained as a person. Just like how Ren Zhu controlled the rules and regulations Gu, and was able to easily capture all the Gu in the world. And Fang Yuan was so familiar with rules and regulations, thus he was able to look down upon the world and see through its truths and lies, being meticulous and precise, or getting right to the heart of the matter. I proudly laugh as I stand on top of the world, coldly looking at the people in the world who behaved like pawns, obeying their respective rules and regulations, living their lives in a straightforward manner. The rules and regulations of the darkness is darkness, and the rules and regulations of the light is light. But the reborn demon had stepped foot under the path of light. The month of May was a transition between spring and summer. The fragrance of flowers filled the air, the huge mountains evergreen, and the sunlight began to gradually release its ardent side. Under the clear azure skies, the white clouds drifted like cotton. On Qingmao Mountain, the bamboo forest was straight like spears as always, pointing towards the blue sky. Weeds grew wildly everywhere, and unknown varieties of wild flowers dotted the grass thicket. As the light breeze blew, the wild grass moved to and fro, the heavy fragrance of flower pollen and the smell of green grass assailing visitors. Halfway up the mountain was a huge number of terraced fields. Layer by layer, step by step, the soft green wheat sprouts were planted down. From afar, it looked like a verdant green sea. On the terraced fields were numerous farmers busily working away. There were some farmers cleaning the canal for the channeling of water to irrigate the fields, while some farmers were rolling up their trousers, standing in the fields and planting sprouts. These people were naturally all mortal outsiders, as the Gu Yue clansmen would never have do these lowly jobs. Ring, ring. The sound of camel bells could be faintly heard in the spring breeze. The farmers straightened their bodies as they headed down the mountain, only to see a caravan moving like a colorful worm from the mountainside, slowly showing its head. It's the merchant caravan. Yes, it's already May. It is about time for the caravan to come. The adults caught on the situation at once, and the children stopped playing with the water and clay in their hands. Together, they energetically approached the caravan. The southern borders had 100,000 mountains. Qingmao Mountain was just one of them. On every mountain, there were villages after villages, which were maintained by everyone through their blood relationships and kinships. In between the mountains, the forests were deep and ominous, the cliffs steep and full of the dangerous falling rocks. Additionally, In the complex surroundings of the forest dwelled a large number of ferocious beasts and peculiar goo worms. Mortals could not pass through at all. It was difficult to get past these obstacles alone. One had to at least be a rank 3 goo master. Because of the poor economy, trading was difficult. Thus, the most important form of trading was through the caravan merchants. Only by organizing a merchant group in such a large scale could goo masters come together with the power to help each other, conquering the difficulties in the traveling routes and traversing from one mountain to another. The merchant caravan's arrival was like a bowl of boiling water that poured into the peaceful and serene Qingmao Mountain. All these past years they would come in April, but this year they only arrived in May. At least they're here now. The owner of the inn let out a deep breath upon hearing the news. The inn's business was poor in the other months, so only when the caravan came could he earn enough profit to last the year. At the same time, there was some green bamboo wine within his storage that he could sell to the caravan merchants. Besides the inn, the business at the tavern would also boom as a result. The caravan merchants entered the Guyue mountain village one by one, led by a treasure brass toad. This toad was 2.5 meters tall, its entire body orange-yellow in color. The back of the toad was thick and full of warts and knots. It was like the lumps of bronze nails on ancient city gates. On the treasure brass toad's back, thick ropes were tied around plenty of goods. At a glance, it seemed like the toad was carrying a giant backpack. A middle-aged man with a circular face full of pockmarks sat cross-legged atop the toad. He was fat and had a large belly. Both of his eyes formed into slits when smiling. He cupped his fists as he greeted the surrounding Guyue villagers. This man's name was Fu of the Jia clan. His cultivation was at rank 4, and he was the leader of the merchant caravan this time. The treasure toad hopped slightly as it moved forward, but Jia Fu, who was sitting on its head, was stable and steady. When the toad hopped, his height would level with the windows on the second floor of a building. Even when he was back on the ground, he was at a height greater than the first level of the bamboo buildings. The originally spacious streets were suddenly rather packed and narrow. The treasure brass toad was like a beast that intruded into the midst of a great number of bamboo houses. After the treasure toad was a huge fat worm. It had 2 eyes that were similar to multicolored glass windows, the colors bright and gorgeous. The worm was 15 meters long, its body shape resembling a silkworm. However, the surface of the worm was covered in a thick layer of black porcelain-like leather armor. On the armor was another abundant pile of goods and merchandise, a hemp rope tied around it. In between the gaps and intervals of the goods, goo masters sat one by one, some old and some young. There were also mortals who were robust and sturdy martial warriors, slowly moving forward on the ground following after a fat black beetle. After the fat beetle, there were ostriches with brightly colored feathers, hairy mountain spiders, winged snakes with 2 pairs of feathered wings, and so on. However, these were in small numbers. Most of the creatures were toads. These toads were all similar to the treasure brass toad, but they were smaller in size and had the build of cows and horses. The toads were carrying merchandise and people, their bellies bulging as they hopped forward. The merchant caravan wound deep into the village. Children on the road would look on curiously with wide eyes, calling out in joy or exclaiming in surprise. The windows on the second stories opened one after another, the mountain villagers observing the merchants from a short distance. Some had eyes that flashed with fear, and some others waved their hands to express a warm welcome. "Old brother Jia, you came a little late this year. You must have had a hard journey." Approaching with the identity of a clan head, Gu Yue Bo came out himself to greet the leader of this year's merchant caravan. As Jia Fu had the status of a rank 4 Gu master, if a rank 3 elder were to be in charge of receiving him, it would undoubtedly be seen as a kind of negligence and scorn. Jia Fu cupped his fists and sighed. This year's road was rather unfavorable. On the way we bumped into a group of secluded blood bats and we lost quite a few good men. Then on Ju-Bai Mountain we ran into a mountain fog, and we didn't dare to continue traveling at all. So we were delayed for quite a lot of time and caused Brother Gu Yue to wait for quite a while. As they spoke, their tones were very polite. The Gu Yue village needed the merchant caravans every year to come and trade, and the merchant caravan also needed business to make money. Heh heh heh, it's good enough that you are able to come. Please, the clan has prepared food and wine. Let me host a welcoming dinner for you, old brother. Gu Yuebo stretched out his hand and said invitingly. Clan head is polite, too polite. Jia Fu was flattered. The merchant caravan arrived at the boundaries of the Qingmao Mountain in the early morning, and by afternoon they were stationed in the Gu Yue village. When it was dusk, the surroundings of the village had formed into a widespread area of temporary shops and stores. All kinds of red, blue, yellow, and green lofty tents were built, and every inch between the tents was squeezed with numerous little street stalls. The night was descending, yet it was still brightly lit in the area. An endless stream of pedestrians spilled into the area from the village. There were mortals as well as Gu masters. The little children hopped around in high spirits, and the adults showed an expression of joy akin to celebrating a festival. Fang Yuan moved along with the crowd, walking alone. The crowd was bustling with activity, groups of people either surrounding the stalls or endlessly pouring in and out of the entrance of the tents. The surroundings were filled with the shouts of merchants hawking their wares. Come, come, take a look. Top-notch blue sea cloud tea brick. Drinking this tea makes one as cheerful as a fairy. Even if it's not a person drinking, it can be used for feeding and raising tea goo. It is a cheaply priced item for its value. One piece only costs 5 primeval stones. Brute force longhorn beetle goo. A goo master who uses this goo will be able to burst out with the strength of a cow. You can walk away, but don't regret it. Intimate grass, high-quality intimate grass. Everyone look at this quality, it's as fresh as if a newly picked one. 1 caddy for 2 pieces of primeval stones, very cheap price. As Fang Yuan heard this, his footsteps paused slightly, then he followed the sound and walked over. He saw an ostrich pulling a handcart with 2 wheels. On the handcart was a heap of pastel green herbs. Every blade of grass was a meter in length, slender and long. Their average width was around that of a fingernail. On some of the pointed tips of the grass grew red heart-shaped flower buds. The intimate grass was one of a goo worm's supplementary food type. Its worth was stemmed from the fact that it could be used to pair up with a few other foods to feed a goo worm. For example, Fang Yuan needed to give 2 pieces of flower petals every meal to the moonlight goo when feeding it. If he mixed in a blade of intimate grass, the moonlight goo would be full just from eating 1 petal. The intimate grass only costs 2 pieces of primeval stones per caddy, while the moon orchid petal cost a primeval stone for every 10 pieces. With a simple calculation, one would know that mixing the intimate grass in to feed the goo would be more cost-effective. Half a month ago, because I used the moonlight goo in the academy to kill Gao Wan, I was fined 30 primeval stones. However, the Mo family paid me 30 primeval stones later as compensation, so I didn't really take any losses. In recent days I have robbed twice. My total number of stones amounts to 118. However, recently I continuously spent essence to refine middle-stage primeval essence and nurture the 4 walls of my aperture, and I would use up 3 pieces of stones every day. Adding on the costs of feeding goo, my own daily expenses, and successively buying green bamboo wine, I have 98 pieces at hand right now. Ever since Fang Yuan killed a person, the cruel and callous image had deeply rooted itself into the hearts of the students, and for a time, no one dared to challenge him. This led to his plundering becoming much easier, as every time only a very small number would dare to resist. Fang Yuan calculated in his heart. Then he moved his line of sight and continued walking deeper into the heart of the setup of temporary stores. The intimate grass stall was surrounded by a group of people. They were all either Gu masters or students, holding primeval stones in their hands as they shouted and rushed to buy it. It was not that Fang Yuan lacked the money to buy intimate grass, but he had no time. If memory serves, that mudskin toad should be in that store. In my previous life, there was a Gu master who got it from gambling on the first night. Hence he earned big time. I must hurry. I cannot lose a great deal through trying to save a little. The further one walked, the more flourishing and prosperous it was. Small street vendors lessened while large tents increased in number. There were all sorts of large tents to be seen, red, blue, green, yellow, in different shapes and sizes, several being a cylindrical shape. Some erected two-door pillars at the entrance of their tents, while others hung large red lanterns instead. Inside, some tents had vibrant lights, whereas others were dim and dark. Fang Yuan observed his surroundings as he walked, finally stopping near a gray-colored tent. "It's here," he evaluated while looking at the tent. It had two pillars at the entrance, and there were carvings on the pillars, two lines of antithetical couplet. The left side wrote, "Small display of courage, obtain good fortune during the 4 seasons." The right side wrote, "Large display of skills, obtain good prosperity in all 4 directions." In the middle there was still another line, "Luck changes with time." That's right, this is a gambling den. This gambling den took around 1 mu of land. It was considered a large-sized tent. Fang Yuan walked inside. Inside of the tent there was 3 rows of counters on a side. On the counter were pieces of amber or fossils. Some were as big as a palm, others were as big as a face. There were also others which were even bigger. Those were as tall as a person. It obviously could not fit on the counter, thus it was directly placed on the ground. Different from the other tent shops, it was silent in here. Several Gu masters stood before the counters, some meticulously observing rocks on the display counter, while others took the fossils and rubbed it in their hand to get a feel of it. There were some that were discussing quietly with their companions, and some were discussing the price with their shop clerks. But no matter what they discussed, they spoke softly, doing their best not to disturb others. This was a rock gambling den. In the Gu world, there were all types of Gu, coming with different shapes and sizes and all sorts of effects. Gu worms have their respective food to consume. Without food, they can only last a short amount of time before dying. But nature, towards life forms, was both uncaring and benevolent. If they lacked food, the Gu worms still have a chance of survival. That was to hibernate, undergoing self-sealing. For example, if the moonlight Gu did not have moon orchid petals to consume, it may undergo self-sealing. It will try to maximize the conservation of its strength, like winter hibernation, falling into a deep slumber. At this time, not only would the blue glow on its body dissipate, it would also turn from a transparent crystal state into a gray rock, covered in a layer of rock shell. Eventually, the rock crust will get thicker and turn into a boulder. Or for example, the liquor worm, if it underwent self-sealing, it would form a white cocoon around it, curling its body and falling into a deep sleep within the cocoon. Of course, this situation of sealing and hibernating may not happen to every Gu worm. It has a small chance of occurrence, and in most cases, the Gu worm will not fall into hibernation, but instead starve to death. Only a small number of Gu worms may, under specific situations, undergo self-sealing. A few Gu masters who accidentally obtain these sealed Gu worms, rocks or cocoons would awaken the Gu worms that were slumbering within. Thus they would have a stroke of fortune. Some of the Gu masters became successful due to this, it being a turning point in their lives. These situations happen frequently in the Gu master world, often being fake or real rumors, giving people hopes and dreams. The source of the idea behind this rock gambling den originated from these rumors. Of course, these rocks all looked alike on the outside. Only after opening them can one determine if there really is a goo worm hidden inside. In a small-sized rock gambling den like this, 9 out of 10 rocks are solid core, having no goo worms inside. Even if there are goo worms inside the rock, they may not be living worms. Most of them are dead goo. But once someone hits the jackpot of a live goo, under most situations, one would be able to earn a huge fortune. If the goo worm is a rare species, they either become a successful person in life or get murdered and robbed of their fortune. Fang Yuan was clear about this in his heart, being very familiar with the situation beyond these doors. In his past life, he had participated in a merchant caravan before, being a clerk in the rock gambling den. Sometime later, he even operated his own rock gambling den, even larger than this one. It was a medium-sized rock gambling den. He managed to con some gamblers and also misjudged at times, allowing other gamblers to win a precious goo worm. Fang Yuan stood at the door for a while, taking a glance around him before slowly walking to the counter on the left side. Behind the counter, there was a shop assistant every few meters, both males and females. On their waist hung a green-colored belt, showing that they were not ordinary people but rank 1 goo masters. Most were initial stages, while a selected few were middle stages. Seeing Fang Yuan before a counter, a female goo master who was nearest by walked towards him and smiled, softly saying, "Young master, what goo worm do you need? Every rock on this counter is sold at 10 primeval stones each. If this is your first try just for the sake of it, why don't you go to the right counter? The rocks there are sold at only 5 primeval stones. If you are seeking thrills, you can go to the high-end counter at the middle. The rocks sold there are at 20 primeval stones each." This was an experienced female goo master, having worked at the rock gambling den for quite some time already. She looked at Fang Yuan, who entered, and determined that he was a student from his appearance, age and height, etc. Those that came to gamble were all goo masters. Students were only considered second-rate goo masters, just starting their cultivation. Because they're often tight on finance due to feeding their goo worms, where would they find the money to come and gamble rocks? Students like this, normally they just came to take a look and to get an eye-opening experience, satisfying their curiosity. Most were only window shoppers, though if some had well-to-do families, they might attempt to buy one to try, but most only bought the cheapest fossil. Thus, the female goo master had no expectations towards how many rocks Fang Yuan could buy. "Let me look around first." Fang Yuan nodded at her expressionlessly, then started to look seriously into the pile. In his memory, it should be at this counter in this particular rock gambling den. But it had been 500 years, it's been too long. Many things were vague to him already, especially when 500 years of memory was a huge capacity. So to be honest, Fang Yuan could not remember distinctly. He could only vaguely recall that during this year, on the first night the caravan arrived, a lucky bird spent 10 primeval stones to buy a fossil with purple gold luster. After he opened it on the spot, he obtained a mudskin toad. Afterwards, this toad goo was bought by another person, thus causing him to earn a small fortune of primeval stones. Fang Yuan frowned after observing for a while. On this counter, fossils with a purple gold glow numbered up to 20. In which rock was there a hidden mudskin toad? Every rock here was sold at 10 primeval stones each. Right now, Fang Yuan had 98 primeval stones with him, and he could buy up to a maximum of 9 pieces. But realistically, he could not count like this. In any sort of risk and gamble, one had to consider the consequences. Fang Yuan was no longer a greenhorn, like those gamblers who thought they were blessed by heaven. Those who thought they were blessed by fate were usually those who fell under the mischief of fate itself. "I am alone, with no relatives or friends that can help me. I have to save some primeval stones to survive, as well as to buy food for my goo worms. He counted, and under the most basic reservation, he could buy at most 7 pieces of fossils. This rock, the purple gold, is dotted like the stars, but it's flat as a pancake. There's definitely no mudskin toad inside. This piece has striking purple gold color, but it is only fist-sized. If there really is a mudskin toad inside, the rock should be at least 30% larger. This purple gold fossil, well, it's big, but the surface is extremely smooth. While the mudskin toad's skin is supposed to be rough and uneven, this is evidently not the one. Fang Yuan continued to observe and evaluate, using the method of cancellation. When goo worms hibernate after self-sealing, they would form into a natural fossil, being undetectable from most of the world's detection methods. The remaining detecting methods were too rough, and once used, it would instantly kill the goo worm within that is barely alive. Thus, when goo masters choose rocks, they could only rely on their guessing, experience, and luck, sometimes relying on a little bit of instinct. Otherwise, this would not be called gambling. Of course, in this wide world, there are countless wonders, and one cannot exclude the fact that a detection method which is extremely gentle exists, allowing a goo master to know if the rock contains a goo worm. Fang Yuan had heard of such rumors in his past life, but after experimenting, found that it was all lies. Fang Yuan assumed privately, if such a method really exists, it has to be a hidden legacy, controlled in the hands of a small number of mysterious people, having no impact on the gambling business. It was still tame around the Qingmao Mountain region, but the more one moves east, the more prosperous gambling dens become. At the Baitu Mountain region, every family village had its own gambling den. In some large-sized forts, there were even large-sized gambling dens built. The 3 villages that were famous for their rock gambling were Panshi 4 village, Gu Mu 5 village, and Kangjiang 6 village, where there were even mega-sized gambling dens. These 3 mega-sized gambling dens each had 1,000 years of history. Currently, their business was still blooming, with an endless number of gamblers. There had never been a situation of clean sweep by anyone. Currently, the tent that Fang Yuan was in can only be barely qualified as a small-sized gambling den. If it was any other 15-year-old who came, they would definitely be confused by all the different fossils, and even if they chose it, it would be by random guessing. But Fang Yuan was different. Firstly, he already knew a portion of the answer from the start, thus his search range shrunk to less than 30 pieces. Of course, to find that one rock out of these 20-odd pieces was extremely difficult as well. But using his 500 years of experience as backing, with such a rich pool of information, he picked out 6 pieces of purple gold fossils that best fit the criteria after observing for a while. He had an 80% chance of confidence that the mudskin toad was hibernating within one of these 6 fossils. I want to purchase some rocks. Having picked his targets, Fang Yuan said to the female goo master. Newbie, the female goo master immediately thought. Even the shittiest gamblers would pay very close observation when they wanted to buy the rocks. First, they would look carefully, then place the stones in their palms and rub to feel the surface and its weight. Even after such actions, if they find that the feeling is off, they would give up. No one would say purchase at the start. And for such a type like Fang Yuan, who said purchase up front, he is undeniably a newbie who is having his first rock gambling experience. Although the female goo master thought this, she did not show any difference in her expression, but continued to smile like a flower, saying softly to Fang Yuan, "Then which piece are you choosing?" Fang Yuan pointed and said, "This piece." She immediately retrieved it. Fang Yuan pointed again and said, "This piece." She felt perplexed, not expecting this youngster to buy 2 pieces. It seems like this youngster is the type to gamble heavily, she evaluated mentally. But next, Fang Yuan pointed yet again. And this piece, that piece, I'm buying them all. The female Gu master was stunned. Feeling extremely surprised, she could not help but assess Fang Yuan again. It seems like this ordinary-looking youngster has a really good family background. Otherwise, how would any ordinary Gu master have the spare cash to spend like this? Thinking of it, the female Gu master's smile became more gentle and friendly. To think that the youngster in front of her was a real customer. This was an unexpected joy. However, Fang Yuan surprised her once again as he pointed to the furthest purple gold rock. Oh yeah, and those two pieces as well. The female Gu master could not help but feel shocked internally. Which young master is this from the Gu Yue village? It looks like he's the main family branch's inheritor. If I can hook up with him, I may not need to stay here and slog as a shop clerk anymore. With this thought, the female Gu master's smile became even more gentle, and she even looked towards Fang Yuan seductively. 6 rocks were placed in front of Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan took out 60 primeval stones and passed it to the female Gu master. His act of payment attracted the attention of all the other Gu masters in the tent. Oh, someone is going to rock gamble. We've been watching for over an hour, but we haven't acted yet. Now that someone is giving it a try, we might as well watch. It's a student. He actually took out 60 primeval rocks at once. His family must be affluent. He looks like a greenhorn HMPH. Gambling rocks isn't so easy. He's gonna get hurt real bad. The Gu masters stood on the spot, discussing softly, all directing their gaze towards Fang Yuan. Young master, do you want to open the rocks on the spot? Our gambling den provides free service to open the rocks. The female Gu master gently advised, sending seductive glances with her eyes. Fang Yuan used the corner of his eye to take a look at the crowd, his lips curling into a mysterious smile. He waved his hand, rejecting the female Gu master. Purple gold is my lucky color, and this is my first time betting. It is very meaningful. I'll open the rocks myself. The female Gu master's eyes shone brighter, thinking this heroic demeanor as expected of a rich young master. Never in her dreams would she be able to imagine that Fang Yuan could be said to be kinless in Gu Yue village, a drifter with no backing, having to rely on himself for everything. Tusk, so what if you have money? I wonder which rich kid this is, coming here to waste his parents' hard-earned money. Ignorant young lad, how can one choose the rocks based on lucky color? Sigh, this act is simply akin to throw primeval stones into the water and waiting to see the ripples for fun. The Gu masters in the tent lost their excitement at once. After thinking that Fang Yuan was a prodigal son, their already low expectations vanished into thin air. Some Gu masters even retracted their gaze and turned around to continue inspecting the fossils on the counter. The changes to his surroundings did not affect Fang Yuan's state of mind at all. He expressionlessly activated the primeval essence within his primeval sea, pouring it into the moonlight Gu. The next moment, the crescent mark on his right palm emitted a faint water-like blue light. Fang Yuan used this right hand to grab a purple gold rock, holding it in his palm. Next, he closed his fingers and slowly rubbed against the surface of the fossil. The blue light continued to shine, the waves of light rippling like water as the purple gold rock shrunk in size, large amounts of powder from rock shavings falling out from the gaps of Fang Yuan's fingers, landing on the carpet of the tent. Young master has good handiwork. The female Gu master took the chance and immediately praised. This youngster, he isn't a good-for-nothing. What great skills! Seeing this sight, the Gu master's eyes shone across with a complicated glint. They had started to see Fang Yuan in a new light. Fang Yuan used the blue light to rub against the surface of the rock. This was a form of meticulous usage of the moonlight Gu. Normally, one would have to use the moonlight goo for 2 to 3 years to be able to reach this level. With Fang Yuan's age and student identity, being able to do this is really remarkable. See, he's using our Gu Yue clan's specialty, the moonlight goo. Some of the Gu masters found this and instantly felt proud, gaining affection for Fang Yuan. But opening the rocks with this method, it's still too rough. Some of the older and more experienced Gu masters shook their heads. The purple gold rock got smaller and smaller, from being slightly larger than a palm into the size of a fist, being gripped tightly by Fang Yuan's fingers. The blue light intensified as the fossil became pearl-sized, until finally, what was left was a pile of rock powder, falling on the carpet to form a small hill. This was a solid rock. There was no goo worm inside. As expected, he's unreliable. The Gu masters shook their heads. Young master, there's still 5 pieces left, the female Gu master encouraged. Fang Yuan's expression was calm, being completely unaffected. He grabbed the second piece of purple gold rock and continued to grind. But the result of this piece was still a solid rock. There was no Gu worm inside. The third piece was still the same. The Gu masters grew impatient. Stop looking. By relying on color to pick the rocks, there's no point in this gamble. If he can get a good Gu from this, I'll eat the pile of rock powder on the floor. Someone laughed insultingly. Don't lose heart, young master. Isn't there 3 pieces left? You're only halfway through. The female Gu master continued to edge Fang Yuan on. Fang Yuan grabbed the 4th piece, and when he got it to palm size, he suddenly stopped all action. Oh, there's something. The rock composition changed. It's not purple gold sediments, but a kind of ink-black color. Don't tell me he really got super lucky from blinding guessing. The surrounding Gu masters exclaimed lightly. Young master, you have to be careful from here onwards. Don't make sudden movements. Hibernating Gu worms are very fragile. If you use too much strength, you'll kill the Gu worm inside. The female Gu master did not expect such a situation to occur. After getting stunned for a moment, she immediately advised carefully. Fang Yuan's movement slowed, his fingers slowly rubbing as small powder slowly fell. Continuously repeating the action with many intervals, he was no longer as fluid as earlier. The black-colored rock powder slowly fell off, and as the rock got smaller, Fang Yuan's movements became slower and gentler. On the carpet, the rock powder continued to gather, as Fang Yuan's black-colored rock was finally scrapped clean. Sigh, what a pity, it's a rock in a rock. What a waste of my emotions. I really thought there was a Gu worm inside. You are all too easy to fool. Is rock betting so easy? 9 out of 10 are all empty. How else is the shop going to make money? Young master, your luck is already not bad. Getting a rock in rock the first time, normal people cannot do it. The female Gu master tried another way to console Fang Yuan. Similarly, it was to pave way for the result that awaited him. Getting nothing out of gambling rocks was very common, a 9 out of 10 occurrence. In her opinion, Fang Yuan was choosing at random. The chance of getting a Gu fossil was close to 0. Fang Yuan smiled but did not reply, and he continued to take out the 5th rock. He carefully grinded, and in 10 breaths' time, the surface of purple gold-colored rock were all rubbed away, revealing a rough-surfaced yellow mud ball. Don't tell me it's another rock in the rock. By the looks of it, probably. But it's a little strange. This mud ball is enclosed by a purple gold rock surface. The mud ball surface should be compressed smoothly, so why is the surface still uneven? The surrounding Gu masters were perplexed. Looking at the mud ball in his hands, Fang Yuan's expression did not change, but in his heart he was slightly moved. He continued to grind. Under the blue watery light, the powdery sand fell off. Among the powder there were some soil crumbs mixed in it, falling onto the pile of rock powder beside his leg. Don't tell me there's really something. Upon seeing this, some of the goo masters stared with their eyes wide opened. "It's hard to say," someone spoke with an uncertain tone. "I feel like there's really something," another spoke softly. The yellow mudball gradually decreased in size due to the friction, and when it was palm-sized, someone barged into the tent. "Young lad, hold up. Jia Jin Sheng will be buying it." Fang Yuan's movement came to a halt. At once, the goo masters in the tent all focused their attention on this person. He looked young on the outside, his appearance around 20 to 25 years old. He wore a golden-colored robe with a lace belt on his waist, and on the belt there was a square-shaped jade piece. There was a word across the piece of jade, showing the letter 1. Evidently, this was a rank 1 goo master. To still be a rank 1 goo master at 20 years old, it seems that his talent isn't good. But the status of this person was rather unique. Seeing him, the goo masters in the tent all bowed and greeted him, saying together, "Your subordinate greets you, second young master." Second young master. He called himself Jia Jin Sheng earlier. Is he the half-brother of the merchant caravan leader, Jia Fu? This means to say, this rock gambling den is opened by him. But now that he appeared to interfere, it seems that he's breaking the gambling den's rules. The goo masters softly conversed. "That's right, I am this shop's shopkeeper. Little brother coming out to gamble at such a young age, aren't you afraid of your family's scolding? I will offer 40 primeval stones now to buy that mudball in your hand. What do you think? 40 primeval stones is a lot already, and there may not be a goo inside, but today I am in a good mood. Thus, seeing that this is your first time gambling, I don't want you to lose everything, so I'll give you a portion of your capital back." Jia Jin Sheng quickly walked in front of Fang Yuan and said, 40 primeval stones. Fang Yuan raised his eyebrows slightly and took a look at Jia Jin Sheng with the corner of his eye, coldly laughing. "It seems you want to forcefully buy the mudball fossil in my possession. Forceful purchase is spoiling the gambling den's rules. Furthermore, you're now on Qingmao Mountain. You want to bully a Gu Yue clansman like me in front of everyone." Oh, on hearing Fang Yuan's last sentence, all the other Gu masters could not take it, and animosity grew uncontrollably in them as they looked towards Fang Yuan's direction. Their expression towards Jia Jin Sheng also became unfriendly. Jia Jin Sheng had thought a 15-year-old like Fang Yuan would be easy to deal with, easily persuaded with a few words. But to think this, Fang Yuan had such capabilities, and with a single sentence he caused Jia Jin Sheng to be in such a predicament. Seeing the Gu masters getting ready to interfere, Jia Jin Sheng's expression changed immediately as he changed his tone, quickly waving his hands. "Little brother, you're mistaken. I am the shopkeeper of this gambling den. How could I ruin my own reputation by breaking my own rules? How would I be able to conduct business in the future? Heh. I just found your mudball a little interesting, thus I wanted to buy it. If you do not wish to sell it, that's fine. But if there's nothing inside later, don't blame me for not reminding you." Fang Yuan paid no more attention to him. He turned around and continued to focus on grinding the mudball in his hands. His movements were very slow and very meticulous. Often, there was only a hint of dry soil powder falling off after a moment or so. Following his movement, a hibernating goo worm gradually appeared in front of everyone's eyes. My God, there really is a goo worm. He really opened a goo. What the hell, this sort of method of gambling can also work. This young man's luck is off the charts. He actually managed to forcefully luck out on getting a goo. Immediately, the goo masters' exasperation filled the tent. The female goo master subconsciously covered her mouth, being unable to believe the scene before her. As shop clerk, along the way she had been to many mountain villages, seen all sorts of people and all kinds of customers, but she had never seen such a comedic scene. There is really a goo. Cold light flashed across Jia Jin Sheng's eyes as he hated and regretted in his heart. The thing he hated most was to be taken advantage of. This gambling den that he opened, he had placed many surveillance methods. Once a customer was about to open a goo, he'd receive the news and would normally forcefully buy it. But now Fang Yuan was inside his gambling den, getting a goo under his very eyes. Jia Jin Sheng could feel his heart bleeding. What he obtained was a toad goo. Its entire body was yellow from head to foot. The belly was light yellow, and its back was brownish yellow, covered with many pimply boils, full of nodules and warts which were a distinctive characteristic of the toad species. At one glance, it looked slightly horrifying. It was not big, being only palm-sized. Holding it in the palm was akin to holding 2 to 3 eggs. Fang Yuan's expression was calm under all sorts of admiration, envy, and exasperation, carefully deploying his primeval essence and injecting it into the toad's body. At this moment, the goo was being refined by Fang Yuan. Goo worms obtained from within fossils are normally extremely weak. Not only do they have little to no strength left, their consciousness is also lazy, leaving them defenseless and unable to resist. Thus, they can be easily refined by the goo masters. Upon being awakened by Fang Yuan, the toad goo opened its eyes slowly, and its belly slightly vibrated, softly calling out, "Rogue!" Its voice was soft, but it made everyone's expression very interesting. The difference in value between a goo that was alive against one that was dead was huge. It's a live goo, he really opened a live goo. Someone rubbed his eyes, unable to believe this. This is the mudskin toad, damn it. It really is the mudskin toad. Someone recognized the toad goo's identity and screamed agitatedly. This young man really has got luck. Why don't I have such luck on my side? Someone sighed, filled with complicated emotions such as envy, jealousy, and hatred. Young master, congratulations. This is to date my first time seeing such a precious goo worm. The female goo master was shocked beyond words, her eyes glistening with life. It's actually the mudskin toad. This is a rare rank 2 goo worm, its value worth 500 primeval stones. Damn it, damn. Someone actually managed to open such a goo worm in my shop. I've lost big time, big time. Jia Jin Sheng's face was pale as he stared daggers at the toad, his heart having a strong urge to just snatch the goo away. But he knew he couldn't, for if he really did that, it would be asking for trouble. This was not his family's village, but the Gu Yue clan's territory. Maybe I should have paid a bit more primeval stones, maybe he might have given it to me. That's right, he's just a student. If I offered 100 primeval stones, there's no way he'd not be moved. Why didn't I do that? Jia Jin Sheng was full of regret. No, maybe this young lad does not know his stuff. Even though he opened a mudskin toad, I should be able to suppress the price and buy it. Jia Jin Sheng's heart had renewed hope. But at the next moment, this hint of hope was mercilessly smashed by Fang Yuan's words. Fang Yuan plainly looked at the mudskin toad in his hands, ignoring the surrounding people's praises and shock. He used an extremely calm tone and said to Jia Jin Sheng, "Mudskin toad, rank 2 goo worm, requires 500 grams of yellow soil every meal. The more fertile the soil, the better. Its species is few in number, and it is the necessary main goo in refining the treasure brass toad. The market price is 500 primeval stones. Jia Jin Sheng, do you want to buy this?" "You actually know so clearly," Jia Jin Sheng mumbled. After such a shock, he could not say a word. Fang Yuan laughed lightly and continued, "If you're unwilling, that's fine. I'll sell it to someone else. I'm sure someone will be interested." "Hold it, wait, I'll buy it. But can't this price be cheaper?" Jia Jin Sheng's smile turned bitter. Fang Yuan turned around and walked away. Jia Jin Sheng hurriedly chased after him. Don't go, I'll buy it." Fang Yuan had no plans to nurture this mudskin toad. It was a rank 2 goo, but Fang Yuan was still a rank 1 initial stage. Although it ate yellow soil, Qingmao Mountain was full of green soil, hence finding food for it would be troublesome. Moreover, if he does not sell this goo worm, Fang Yuan would have to feed 3 goo worms himself. Putting aside the increased primeval stone expenditure, even the current amount of primeval stones in his possession would not be enough to feed them. Thus, Fang Yuan's plan was to immediately sell away the mudskin toad, get the 500 primeval stones, and earn a fortune. To a rank 1 initial stage like Fang Yuan, 500 primeval stones was considered a large amount already. The transaction was quickly completed, and Fang Yuan transferred the mudskin toad to Jia Jin Sheng in front of the crowd, at the same time accepting 5 heavy money bags. Each bag had 100 primeval stones. Fang Yuan originally had 98 primeval stones, and after spending 60 on gambling rocks, he had 38 left. Now, his fortune multiplied many times, and he owned 538 primeval stones. Upon seeing this, many goo masters turned green with envy. Fang Yuan put the 5 bags in his bosom before taking the last piece of purple gold fossil and walked out of the tent. "Young master, you're not opening that fossil." The female goo master blinked rapidly and stared at Fang Yuan's back, loudly reminding him. Fang Yuan paid no heed and left the gambling den without turning back. He left behind a gang of stunned goo masters, staring at each other silently. Jinjia Sheng calling Fang Yuan little brother is a way of greeting. They are not related in any way. The green copper primeval sea had tides rising and falling, ebbing and flowing. Above the sea level, the liquor worm curled into a ball, emitting the wine vapor that gradually developed into white mist. A surge of primeval essence with a swoosh rushed up against the tide and into the wine mist. When the tide receded, there was already half left, and the color was even darker. From initial stage jade green, it had converted into middle stage pale green. Middle stage primeval essence fell into the sea, but it did not mix with the initial stage primeval essence. As if it was denser, it sank to the bottom. Thus, the situation became that the upper layer of the primeval sea was filled with initial stage primeval essence, while the lower half was middle stage primeval essence. As time flowed, the wine mist circulated within the aperture. Under the refinement of the liquor worm, eventually, the initial stage primeval essence continued to decrease, while the middle stage primeval essence gradually increased. It could be seen with the naked eye where the lower layer middle stage primeval essence gradually rose, while the upper layer initial stage primeval essence continued to decrease, but also rose in sea level. As Fang Yuan refined his primeval essence, he extracted the natural essence from the primeval stones at the same time, quickly replenishing the dwindling primeval essence in his aperture. Finally, the 45% primeval sea in his aperture was fully refined into middle stage primeval essence. Much thanks to the middle stage primeval essence, or else I would not have been able to open the rocks 5 times in the gambling den. Sitting in a lotus position on his bed, Fang Yuan gradually opened his eyes. It was currently late at night. After he walked out of the gambling den, he did not tour around any of the other shops, but instead headed back to the academy. Although it was at the fringe of the Gu Yue mountain village, as a rank 1 initial stage Gu master, owning 538 primeval stones is still too much. This is not only because the primeval stones were heavy and a hassle to bring around. It also attracts other people's coveting. In another sense, it would endanger his life. If there was a rank 1 upper stage, or even a rank 2 who coveted his assets, with Fang Yuan's current ability he would not be able to contend. Wealth comes and goes, but humans die because of wealth. It's pathetic. What's laughable is that many people in this world cannot comprehend that. The boat of benefits carries many people, but has also sunk many others. Fang Yuan's lips curled into a cold smirk as he looked at the gray-white primeval stones in his hands. A complete primeval stone was around the size of a duck egg, but the stone in his hand, as it had been extracted of half of its essence, was an entire circle smaller. Fang Yuan did not regret it. Everything has its gains and losses. Fang Yuan was only a C-grade talent, yet he was using the liquor goo to refine his primeval essence, and his primeval stone's expenditure was multiple times of the people of his age. Yet it was because of this that he was able to overcome the lack of his talent. If the real cultivation pace could be counted, he would be able to rank first three. Fang Yuan put the primeval stones back into his money bag and took out that final purple gold fossil. He bought a total of 6 fossils at the gambling den and opened 5 on the spot, bringing the last one back with him. His eyes shone as he activated the moonlight goo, grinding with 5 fingers, slowly dissecting the rock. The purple gold fossil gradually shrunk under the blue ripples and finally was grinded to nothingness, leaving behind a pile of powder on the ground. Fang Yuan was not surprised, because in rock gambling you lose 9 out of 10 times. Even with his 500 years of experience, he could only manage 8 losses out of 10 times, and in the remaining 2 times, it depended on whether it was a live goo or a dead goo. Dead goo had basically no value. As for live goo, they might not be a rare type of goo worm, and even if it was a tremendously precious goo, one might attract a life-threatening crisis because of it. Fang Yuan's current cultivation level was still very low. It was at the bottom tier of the goo masters. The mudskin toad that he obtained earlier, if it weren't for the fact that this was the Gu Yue mountain village, it might have been forcefully snatched away by that Jia Jin Sheng. Gambling was never the way for developing family wealth, and in fact it was a bigger cause of bankruptcy and debt. This was not the development path that Fang Yuan wanted to take. Although the final purple gold fossil did not have a goo worm, Fang Yuan was not disappointed. In fact, he looked at the pile of rock powder and gradually broke into a smile. Indeed, his ultimate motive in entering the gambling den was all for this pile of rock powder. That mudskin toad was only something he had gotten out of convenience. He privately opened the fossil, and other than him, nobody knew the truth of this result. From that day forth, he could claim that the liquor worm was awakened and subdued from the purple gold fossil. This idea was fabulous. Firstly, nobody could confirm what goo worm really exists in the fossils. Who would dare say that the liquor worm could not hibernate within the purple gold fossil? That's completely possible. Secondly, he had several eyewitnesses. He opened the mudskin toad, which would have left a strong impression on the goo masters in the gambling den. Thirdly, even if someone relentlessly questioned him, he could push everything onto his luck. Luck was something unfathomable. Even if someone suspected that this was the flower wine monk's liquor worm, against an excuse like luck, they'd have no idea how to argue against Fang Yuan. Within the dark room, Fang Yuan's expression was ominous. One-sided covering up was akin to covering fire with paper. There would be a day where he would be exposed. To get rid of a hidden threat like the liquor worm, he'd have to strike first. This is Fang Yuan's style. Moreover, he had thought about it carefully, and in the cultivation process that was to follow, he would need to expose the liquor worm. For a rank 1 goo like the liquor worm, it is extremely precious to rank 1 goo masters, but for rank 2 goo masters, it is no longer compatible for them. Thus, even if this was exposed, all I would get is some attention, but it would not affect the overall situation, thus becoming nothing to be concerned over. It is not like the spring and autumn cicada. If the spring and autumn cicada is exposed, I might die a horrible death at the very next moment. 500 years of experience in handling problems had already made Fang Yuan extremely familiar with human mentality, with their every thought clear as day to him. the flower wine traveler's legacy, and the mudskin toad. Among my memories, these are the only two treasures here, and now that they have been obtained by me, what I can do next is only gradual and steadfast cultivation. Fang Yuan sighed a deep breath and relaxed his body, feeling a strong sense of fatigue engulfing him. A Gu master's primeval sea cultivation could not replace sleep. Fang Yuan pulled his blanket and lay down on his bed, his eyes still half open. Although there were 500 primeval stones hidden under the bed, as well as many pots of green bamboo wine, he still felt a sense of urgency and danger. These 500 over primeval stones were already a form of limit. From flourish to decline, Fang Yuan was clear that henceforth his primeval stone expenditure would only get bigger. But his income was mostly from extorting his classmates. He had been increasingly feeling the growth and improvement of his classmates, especially in the recent few extortions. Gu Yue Mo Chen, Kai Chen, and his brother Gu Yue Fang Zheng had greatly improved in their kicks and punches. Previously, he only needed 1 or 2 strikes to take them down, but now he needed 5 or 6. Another 3 to 4 plunders, and their punches and kicks would have been polished fully. If they challenge me one by one, with my current stamina, I cannot endure that kind of round-robin battle. 500 primeval stones might seem a lot, but with my current expenditure of 4 stones a day, it is actually not that much. Qingmao Mountain already has no treasures left, but nearby on the Bai Gu Mountain, there is a secretly built strength inheritance of a rank 4 Gu master of the righteous path. It still boils down to the flower wine monk's treasure being too little, only giving me a liquor worm. There is still that film image wall, maybe I can sell it to a certain merchant in the caravan. Fang Yuan thought as his eyelids grew heavier, until he finally fell asleep. On the second day in the afternoon during lunch break, Fang Yuan went to the shopping district outside the mountain village again. As many of them had to work in the day, there was not many villagers at the tentage area. Fang Yuan walked to the area where the vendor was selling intimate grass last night, according to his memory. He reached only to see an empty cart, still on the spot. An ostrich was dragging the cart along. It stood on the spot proudly, its body size as large as an ostrich while having the appearance of a chicken. The back of the creature bulged into a curved angle. A pair of wide wings were collected on the side of its body, the feathers splendidly bright in 7 colors. The chicken head was raised tall, its huge red coxcomb like an agate crown, flashing with the luster of a gem under the sunlight. It seems I was still too late. The intimate grass was sold out. What a pity. If I were able to buy a few caddy of intimate grass, I'd be able to save quite a bit of primeval stones. Fang Yuan's footsteps came to a halt as he walked away and continued to venture deeper into the area. Come, have a taste of the delicious wine from all the different villages. There are more than 100 types of wine here, like the lantern grass wine, the 9-tune wine with a strong aftertaste, the light and elegant ancient dragon well, the sweet and sour flower rock tune, the mouth-watering 100 spring-old cellar, the rich and heavy fragrant intoxication of 3 autumns. In front of a blue round bucket before the tent, a shop assistant was hawking with gusto. A light flashed through Fang Yuan's gaze as he immediately grew interested. With a turn, he entered the wine shop. The decor in the wine shop was very unique. At the most inner part of the tent, there was a long counter. A Gu master was stationed there, with tens of crystal ladybugs around the size of wicker baskets behind him, sticking onto the tent's cloth walls. On the floor there was no carpet, but rather the uncovered mountain rocks and soil. Among the soil, vibrant colored mushrooms grew. These mushrooms had all sorts of colors, looking round and slightly cute. Some were as large as tables, while others were short like benches. They were often distributed where a large table mushroom was surrounded by a few shorter bench mushrooms. This is the innocent mushroom, purposely grown by a Gu master. It has the ability to absorb dust and particles in the air to purify it, and it's a type of grass goo. Fang Yuan could recognize the mushroom's origins immediately upon seeing them. He chose one of the short mushrooms and sat down. The mushroom's surface immediately sank down a little, making Fang Yuan feel like he was sitting on a sofa like those on Earth. "Young master, this is the wine catalog. Would you like to take a look?" A shop assistant walked over. Fang Yuan glanced at the wine catalog and realized that the wine here was more expensive than the green bamboo wine. "I'll have a cup of monkey wine." Fang Yuan put down the catalog. "A cup of monkey wine." The shop assistant turned around and shouted. At the counter, the rank 1 goo master heard and immediately bent down to take out a bamboo wine cup. Next he took the wine cup and turned around, facing the tentage. On the blue tent walls were the tens of crystal ladybugs, head facing downwards and tail facing upwards, quietly latched onto the walls as if they were merely decorations for the tent. These crystal ladybugs were also a type of goo. Its stomach was empty, as they were often used by goo masters to carry precious liquids. Their bodies were transparent, as if they were made of crystals. From the outside, one could see that within the ladybug's stomach, different kinds of liquor could be found. The goo master quickly found the crystal ladybug that contained the monkey wine among them. He placed the bamboo wine cup at the mouthpiece of the ladybug and gently stroked the exoskeleton of the ladybug with his other hand. A small amount of primeval essence entered the crystal ladybug's body, and afterwards it opened its mouth, and a gush of liquor flowed into the bamboo wine cup. The liquor splattered around in the cup until it was full. The goo master placed the bamboo wine cup, which was filled with monkey wine, on the counter. The shop assistant, who had already been waiting for a while, quickly held up the cup meticulously and walked a few steps to deliver it to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan only took a tiny sip. The monkey wine was indeed a fruit liquor, being sweet and refreshing and delicate on the palate. He stopped drinking, but instead, with a thought, Fang Yuan summoned the liquor worm. The white and fat liquor worm turned into a flash of white light and curved an arc in the air. With a plop, it landed in the wine cup. The wine splattered everywhere, sprinkling onto the mushroom table. The liquor worm joyfully beat about in the wine cup, and the monkey wine could be seen decreasing with the naked eye. In a few breaths' time, the cup had dried out, with not a single drop left. "It's the liquor worm," the goo master at the counter shouted, his eyes sparkling. He was a rank 1 goo master with grade D talent, only able to follow the merchant caravan and work in this wine shop. His objective was to sightsee while finding his chances. The liquor worm can refine primeval essence and raise it by an entire realm. To a rank 1 goo master, it can be said to be an extremely precious goo worm. Isn't this the chance he's been painstakingly searching for? "This young master, do you have any plans to sell this liquor worm?" He excitedly approached, a look of sincerity in his eyes. Fang Yuan shook his head, rejecting him with a determined attitude, getting up to leave after that. His motive this time was to reveal the liquor worm in his possession. He had never thought of selling it. Young master, please hold on. I am really sincere about this. Maybe we can sit down and have a discussion." The goo master reluctantly followed Fang Yuan to the tentage entrance, but Fang Yuan did not show any response to him. In the end, he could only stand on the spot, his expression extremely regretful as he watched Fang Yuan's rear view turn around a corner and disappear into the midst of the horizon. Unconsciously, the sun gradually set as the crescent moon took its place. In the night, the moonlight shone brightly, but was overpowered by the numerous street lights in the merchant shops. The merchant shop tonight was swarming with business. Fang Yuan was squeezed left and right as he entered, hearing all sorts of conversations inadvertently. The stores normally open for 3 days and 3 nights. Tonight is already the second night. By the morning of the day after, the merchant caravan would have left on their journey already. Thus, we have to hurry if we want to buy anything. I saw a golden bell goo yesterday, sigh. Too bad it was too expensive. After haggling with the shopkeeper for a long time, it did not get any cheaper. I'll go and take a look tonight. Did you guys hear? Last night, a young man opened a mudskin toad and earned a profit of 500 primeval stones. Ali. Fang Yuan listened attentively, feeling disappointment in his heart as he did not hear anything about the liquor worm. The liquor worm is only a rank 1 goo worm, but it is extremely meaningful to a rank 1 goo master, yet it's useless to a rank 2 or rank 3 goo master as they are unable to refine their primeval essence any further with it. Thus it is normal that no one paid attention to this. However, taking the initiative to expose the matter of the liquor worm cannot be rushed for a period of time. If I overdo it, it might end up letting the cat out of the bag. As Fang Yuan walked, he pondered silently in his heart. At this point, there was a hustle in front of him. Next, Fang Yuan heard someone shout, "Quickly come and see. There's a dishonest merchant here selling fake goo to our clansmen." Anger stirred among the crowd. "Oh, there's something like that happening. Go and see quickly, which shop dares to cheat our clansmen." Fang Yuan followed the crowd and moved towards the commotion as well. What met his eyes were a group of people surrounding the mouth of a large red tent, the massive crowd swarming it. Some were curiously watching while others stared coldly, but most of the people were enshrouded with a sense of anger. Outside the tent stood 2 people. One of them was a young rank 2 goo master, whose attire showed that he was obviously from the Gu Yue clan. The other person had a familiar face. It was the owner of the gambling den, Jia Jin Sheng. The young goo master held a black goo worm in his hands, raising it up and shouting to the crowd, "My clansmen, this person in front of me sold me a fake goo yesterday, lying to me that it was a black boar goo, and sold it to me for 250 primeval stones. To think that when I got home to refine it, I realized that it was not a black boar goo, but simply an ordinary stinky fat worm." Jia Jin Sheng laughed coldly. "Don't accuse me falsely. Since when did I tell you it was a black boar goo? What proof do you have?" The young goo master, on seeing Jia Jin Sheng's denial, fell into a rage and grabbed Jia Jin Sheng's wrist. "You cunning merchant, you dare to deny it. You actually dare to lie to me of the Gu Yue clan on Qingmao Mountain itself. Are you trying to look for death? Let go of me." Jia Jin Sheng was also furious as he flicked his wrist, slapping away the young Gu master's hand. "If you want to find trouble and extort money, you should find a better target. I am not afraid of you. My brother is Jia Fu, a rank 4 Gu master. What can you do to me?" "You," the young Gu master stared with his eyes wide, but did not dare to take action. The name of a rank 4 Gu master was enough to intimidate him. "Bah!" Jia Jin Sheng spat on the ground, raising his head and looked at the young Gu master, laughing in disdain. "It was you who wanted to take advantage of the cheap Gu. Didn't you use your brain to think, why black boar Gu, which can raise a Gu master's strength, being such a rare Gu worm, was sold even more cheaply than a liquor worm? It is normally sold at 600 primeval stones. Did you think that you could buy one for just 250 primeval stones? Dream on." "Bastard!" The young Gu master gritted his teeth, his face flushing red as he trembled out of anger, his chest burning with the rage of humiliation. There were chatters among the people as they got restless, discussing furiously. But no one dared to step up, for the rank 4 Gu master status of Jia Fu was like a giant hill in front of them, stabilizing the crowd. "This lad is too vicious. What a cunning merchant. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant on Qingmao Mountain. He is actually Jia Fu's little brother. I heard that they are just half-brothers, but even with that rank 1 cultivation, he is able to use this relationship to act unrestrained in the caravan. What happened here exactly? At this moment, a loud voice spoke out. Jia Fu is here. The leader is here to settle the dispute. Everyone give way. The discussion came to a halt as everyone separated and formed a narrow path between them. A middle-aged Gu master having a muscular short body coupled with a giant belly walked in. He wore a long-sleeved yellow robe, being the leader of the merchant caravan, Jia Fu. Sir Jia Fu, my regards. The young Gu master was furious but did not dare to say anything. He forced himself to endure the anger and paid respects to Jia Fu. Jia Jinsheng was frozen on the spot, not expecting his brother to arrive. His face suddenly pale as anger flashed across his eyes. This peculiar expression was captured by Fang Yuan, who was observing from afar as he pondered about the situation. "Hello, young Gu master, what is the problem here?" Jia Fu walked to the middle of the crowd and asked amicably. The young Gu master was flattered and he cupped his fists again. Looking at the surrounding clansmen, he bucked up his courage and explained the entire situation. "So that's what happened," Jia Fu nodded while listening. Next he asked Jia Jinsheng, "Little brother, is this true?" Jia Jinsheng turned his head away and snorted coldly, not looking at his brother. Jia Fu pondered solemnly. The surrounding people were silent, not daring to interrupt his thoughts. All awaited in anticipation of his verdict. This matter was in fact due to Jia Jinsheng's scam, but the young Gu master was also at fault for being greedy and not being vigilant himself. Otherwise he would not have gotten cheated. If Jia Fu wanted to defend his brother, with his rank 4 cultivation, even the Gu Yue clan leader could not do anything. Jia Fu thought for a while before finally speaking. "I've understood the situation. My brother is at fault for this matter, causing this young man to suffer a loss and buy fake products. I am really sorry." Saying so, he cupped his fists towards the young Gu master. "Sir Jia Fu." The young Gu master was largely surprised and quickly said modestly, "You are a rank 4 Gu master. I am merely a rank 2. This is too much for me, too much." Jia Fu waved his hand. He, this has nothing to do with cultivation levels. I act impartially regardless of ability. A wrong is a wrong. I apologize to you on behalf of the merchant caravan. As for compensation, how about this? You lost 250 primeval stones, so I will compensate double that amount to you on behalf of the Jia family." He executed his promise immediately, as a follower took out 5 money bags and handed it to the young Gu master in public. Every money bag was filled to the brim, each containing 100 primeval stones. The young Gu master took over the money bag, so overwhelmed that he could not say anything. "However, I have a word of advice to you," Jia Fu continued and reminded. "A black boar Gu is very rare, for it is able to raise a Gu master's strength permanently. Although it is only rank 1, it is very hard to find on the market. Every time one appears in the market, it would be bought immediately. The pricing is around 600 primeval stones. Trying to get one with 250 primeval stones is impractical." Junior has learnt his lesson. The young Gu master bowed deeply to Jia Fu in gratitude. Cheers erupted from the crowd. "Sir Jia Fu is brilliant. Magnificent, as expected of Sir Jia Fu." As a rank 4 Gu master, he did not make use of his status to bully the weaker party. Sir Jia Fu really is the role model of the righteous path. "No, no," Jia Fu smiled, cupping his fists towards the crowd, modestly saying, "Our Jia family business bases our principles on trust and honesty. Everyone, my brother, is young and foolish, liking to play pranks on others. He is actually very kind. I hope everyone can be more bearing of him. Don't take it to heart." The crowd's cheers became even louder. HMPH. Jia Jinsheng's expression was ugly as he stomped on the ground and walked into the tent. Next, he walked out from the back of the tent. Fang Yuan looked at this silently, thinking in his heart, It seems that the image wall at the Flower Wine Monk's place can be sold. The Flower Wine Monk had used a photo-audio Gu to record the ugly acts of the fourth-generation Gu Yue clan leader. Before he died, with indignance in his heart, used the photo-audio Gu and slapped it on the wall, creating an image wall. The image wall's images continued to loop, showing the truth to the people. With the intention of maximizing his profits, Fang Yuan had wanted to sell this image wall long ago. He believed that the other two clan families on Qingmao Mountain, the Bai family and Xing family, would be very interested in this image wall. But to sell this personally would be very inappropriate. His cultivation was too weak, and if he brought this image wall to the other villages, he could easily be silenced. Even if the transaction was successful and he managed to return safely, there was no secret that would stay a secret forever, and once it was revealed to the Gu Yue's higher-ups, he would be kicked out of the clan family at best. In accordance to Fang Yuan's plans, he still needed to make use of the Gu Yue clan. Thus, the safest way was to sell it to a certain merchant in the caravan. All of them were outsiders and were not involved in the disputes among the villages, thus it was the best choice for him. In just one day, this caravan would leave the Gu Yue mountain village and lead towards either the Xing family or the Bai family. Fang Yuan could reduce his risks to the minimum by selling to them. It was the safest method. Ali, one more cup. Wine, where's the wine? Quickly get me the wine. Are you afraid that I'm unable to pay? Jia Jinsheng slammed the mushroom table as he howled. Young Master Jia, here's your wine. The clerk quickly brought him his wine. Jia Jinsheng grabbed the bamboo cup and tilted his head and gulped the liquor. Good wine, he laughed loudly, sounding coarse and bleak. With a bang, he placed the cup on the table and howled again. Get me another glass. I want as many as you can supply. The clerks did not dare to offend him and could only do as he said. Luckily, this wine house was already full of people. Not only were the mushroom tables packed with people, even the surrounding streets were packed with people. Jia Jinsheng's drunkard temperament was not very peculiar in this bustling street. Jia Jinsheng drank cup by cup, wanting to drown his sorrows. With his back facing the crowd, no one observed that as he drank, 2 clear lines of tears flowed down his cheeks. Who would know of his pain, his sorrow? A hateful person has to have his pitiful side. Conversely, everybody had their own stories. Amongst his brothers, he was the youngest, being the most handsome and resembling his father the most, thus being the most doted by his father. But heaven made fun of him by giving him only D-grade talent. As he grew up, he lived under the pressure of his brothers. He was indignant and wanted to resist, but with that talent, there was nothing he could do. His father felt death approaching and wanted to split his assets. 2 people were to lead a merchant caravan. They pledged to break up the family property in accordance to the results. Jia Jinsheng wanted to rely on his own method to acquire the family assets and the recognition of his clan. But to think that he became his brother's stepping stone once again. When Jia Fu appeared, he knew he fell into a trap. This was a scheme right from the beginning. But what could he do? Once he entered this caravan, he was doomed to be Jia Fu's fodder. Rank 4 and rank 1 was such a huge gap that he was powerless to fight again. Jia Fu, he forced this name out of his mouth, his eyes burning with the flames of hatred. He was unable to take it lying down. Do you wish to deal with your brother? I can help you. At this time he heard a voice. Jia Jinsheng was stunned, but when he turned around, he saw that for quite a while, there was someone sitting beside him. He shook his head and blinked a few times, finally seeing who it was. Who else if not for Fang Yuan? It's you. He stared at Fang Yuan, slightly angry. I remember you. Lucky lad getting a mudskin toad from my gambling den. You're here to mock me. Fang Yuan looked at Jia Jinsheng, his eyes cold as water. I have a huge business, so if you wish to acquire better results and get more assets, why not listen to me? Jia Jin Sheng was suspicious. His back straightened and he sat up. How do you know about the matter of the assets? This secret was not easily known to outsiders, but Fang Yuan was easily able to guess it. The Jia family's business is not top secret. How can it evade people who wish to know? Fang Yuan laughed coldly and thought of a memory from his previous life. The Jia family head was a legendary figure who started from scratch. He made his fortune through the merchant caravans and revived the Jia family's village. He gradually got old, and when he could feel that his time was up, he got his children to form a caravan in twos and, according to their results, split the assets. The better they did, the more family assets they get. But his eldest son Jia Fu and second son Jia Gui were extremely talented. After competing for 6 to 7 years, they still could not come to a conclusion, and even after the family head died, there was no clear victor. After the Jia family head died, there was an enormous amount of assets. While competing for the assets, the two brothers' conflict escalated, and both called in external help, causing a large-scale Gu competition. Finally, the both of them died. The Jia family that had prospered quickly also failed quickly, causing people to talk about it in amazement. Jia Jin Sheng squinted his eyes, for Fang Yuan's explanation was irrefutable. He thought, from the time his father declared the asset distribution, it had already been 2 years. There are no impenetrable walls in the world, so even if someone found out about it, it's nothing strange. His real worry was whether this was another trap by Jia Fu. But no matter what, there was no harm listening. Fang Yuan did not speak immediately. He surveyed the surroundings. This was the same wine cellar he came into in the afternoon. The shopkeeper operated independently, and at night the shop was bustling with business. Discussing here was a far safer place than a quiet environment, as it could avoid the eavesdropping of certain Gu worms. He hooked his fingers at Jia Jin Sheng. "Lend me your ear." Jia Jin Sheng unhappily snorted, but still slanted his head forward. After hearing Fang Yuan's description, he frowned and looked at Fang Yuan coldly. "This business involves the 3 families on Qingmao Mountain, and we merchants detest getting involved in other people's disputes. HMPH, you were sent here by Jia Fu to harm me, right?" Fang Yuan had long expected for him to be suspicious. He did not bother to explain, but got up and left. In that case, I'll go talk to your brother." Jia Jin Sheng squinted his eyes, staring at Fang Yuan. Only until Fang Yuan had left the wine shop did he lose his patience. He chased out of the tent and caught up to Fang Yuan. "Don't go, we can have a talk." Fang Yuan placed both hands behind his back, staring at him from the side, coldly saying, "I know you are suspicious of me, but now that your brother has you firmly caught, you're almost close to finished. If you choose to believe in me, there's still hope, if not you're doomed. Are you daring enough to take this bet?" Jia Jin Sheng's expression changed as he corrected and said, "Jia Fu is but only a little older. I have never acknowledged him as my brother. But you're right, I'm taking this bet." Fang Yuan said solemnly, 2,000 primeval stones, no haggling." Jia Jin Sheng laughed bitterly. "Too expensive, this trade involves high risk." "The greater the risk, the greater the rewards." Fang Yuan shook his head, his attitude firm. "If you sell it to those 2 families, you will only earn much more." Jia Jin Sheng nodded, showing a hint of seriousness. "This I believe. For these years the Bai family has been growing fast, and an grade talent called Bai Enning Bing has appeared recently. He has a great future ahead. Qingmao Mountain's situation is gradually changing. Your Gu Yue family's dominance is wavering, and if I sell this to the Bai family, I can at least earn twice as much." Hearing Jia Jin Sheng's understanding of the Qingmao Mountain situation, Fang Yuan could not help but evaluate him again, thinking, "This Jia Jin Sheng, He is still a merchant family member after all, not those useless second generations. Jia Jin Sheng sighed. Regardless of whether this is a trap, I'm jumping in. I promise you 2,000 primeval stones it is. However, I want to see the merchandise first. Of course, come with me. Fang Yuan laughed as he led the way. Jia Jin Sheng was already trapped in the urn, and the situation was fully in Fang Yuan's grasp. Following his memories, Fang Yuan brought Jia Jin Sheng to the cavern in the mountain. The two entered the crack in the stone, and the path became more narrow as their vision was dyed in darkness. Jia Jin Sheng grew more vigilant as he was in an unfamiliar environment. Finally, he could not hold it in any further. I have a question. Jia Fu always treats people with honesty and is amicable with a good reputation. On the other hand, I lied and cheated, forcing transactions through coercion. Why did you choose to deal with me and not him? Fang Yuan's voice traveled through the stone crack. Because his cultivation is too high, so if he sees the image wall, he can choose to deal with me, or abandon the deal and just give the image wall to the Gu Yue clan head. I do not like giving the decision-making to others. Furthermore, I do not believe in integrity. The so-called prestigious reputation is just because the profits are small and are unable to incur his greed. More importantly, it was because Jia Jin Sheng's position was special, for his cultivation was weak and he was easy to manipulate. Fang Yuan was naturally not going to mention this, of course. He, Jia Jin Sheng laughed dryly, his suspicions mostly gone immediately. That last sentence really resonated within me. The two finally got into the secret cave. Jia Jin Sheng saw the image wall at once, and could not help but laugh loudly. "Haha, I guessed right, you didn't lie to me." Fang Yuan stood behind him, laughing lightly, not saying anything. Jia Jin Sheng looked at the wall, seeing the changing images and the animosity between the flower wine monk and the fourth-generation clan leader. He looked at it once and retracted his gaze, looking at Fang Yuan, mocking. "Your fourth-generation ancestor doesn't look that strong, huh?" Fang Yuan replied, "This is nothing. The Gu Yue clan needed a hero, thus the fourth generation became a hero. Not long after, the Bai family needs a despicable scum, so the fourth generation will become a degenerate. Hero, scum, all these are just people's opinions." Well said, Jia Jin Sheng laughed as he surveyed the cave. His sight was set on the corpse of the flower wine monk, and he stopped for a while before saying, "What a pity, a rank 5 powerhouse. You've gotten much benefits from him, huh?" A rank 5 Gu master's inheritance was significant. Jia Jin Sheng's heart beat faster upon thinking of this, and he could not help but ask. Fang Yuan shook his head. "It's been so long, most of the Gu are dead, I only got a liquor worm." Jia Jin Sheng did not believe him. "Don't lie to me, brother. As long as this deal goes through, we are accomplices. I won't reveal any information. Tell me honestly, what did you gain from this?" Fang Yuan laughed coldly and did not bother replying him. Jia Jin Sheng's response was anticipated, and this was also why Fang Yuan chose him over Jia Fu. Jia Jin Sheng continued to say, "At the very least, I know the flower wine monk has a 1,000-li earthwolf spider. That is a rank 5 steed-type Gu, with a large body and is proficient in burrowing underground. The flower wine monk was a demonic cultivator, and his ability to get about freely was mostly due to this 1,000-li earthwolf spider, allowing him to escape from the righteous cultivators." "Oh, there's something like that," Fang Yuan frowned. Regarding the flower wine monk, he did not have much information. Jia Jin Sheng smugly said, "I came to your village last year and heard this legend, and I found it interesting, so I went home and researched about it. The 1,000-li earthwolf spider and flower wine monk were inseparable, and in my opinion this cave should have been dug out by the spider. Otherwise, with the Qingmao Mountains' rich and heavy soil, how can a cave like this form? Brother, you don't have to conceal it anymore. The flower wine monk died here, so there's definitely his 1,000-li earthwolf spider here. Fang Yuan frowned even more deeply, feeling a sense of discomfort, his gaze grim. Yes, there are no other exits here. The 1,000-li earthwolf spider is massive. He would not have been able to squeeze out from the crack we just walked through. However, there is a possibility that the 1,000-li earthwolf was plotted against and killed by the fourth generation. Seeing that image wall, even when the flower wine monk was fighting, he did not summon the 1,000-li earthwolf spider. That makes the situation even more peculiar. This cave is not formed naturally, thus it has to be created by the flower wine monk. Without the 1,000-li earthwolf spider, could there be any other methods? Jia Jinsheng looked at Fang Yuan suspiciously. Fang Yuan's frown swelled into a knot as he felt more and more uncertain. From Jia Jinsheng's information, he found out something. It appears as if there was a crucial point that he had missed out. He could not help but fall into deep thoughts. Jia Jinsheng was thinking too. The image wall was no longer enough for him. Once he confirmed that the situation was real, he wanted to dig out the flower wine monk's inheritance from Fang Yuan. But at this time, something unexpected to the two of them happened. The image wall, which was playing endlessly, suddenly changed its image. A gravely injured, pale, bald goo master replaced the original video and appeared on the wall. He weakly sprawled on the ground, his back facing the wall. His chest and limbs were deeply cut, but the strange thing was that his wounds did not bleed, as if his entire body's blood had been drained out. "I am the flower wine monk." The bald goo master laughed, his expression distorted with madness. "Future person, no matter who you are, to endure this video and let it play for nearly 100 days, it proves that you have no goodwill towards the Gu Yue family. Very well, you shall be my successor. My entire inheritance is yours, but I have a condition. You must exterminate the Gu Yue clan for me. Murder the entire clan and leave no one alive." Jia Jinsheng was stunned on the spot, his face frozen with shock. A rank 5 powerhouse, the flower wine monk's inheritance. He was stunned, and for a moment his brains were churning and thinking. My God, a rank 5 powerhouse, what does that mean? Rank 3 is a family elder, rank 4 is a village lord, and a rank 5 is a mountain lord, able to rule over a mountain and do as he pleases. To think that in this tiny place, there is a rank 5 Gu master's power inheritance. Wait, flower wine monk is a demonic cultivator, so if I inherit his powers, is it inappropriate? No, strength has nothing to do with good or evil. The flower wine monk wants his successor to destroy the Gu Yue clan, but do I really have to? He's already dead, I just have to take his inheritance and ignore those issues. This is a godsend opportunity. Even with my D-grade talent, if I inherit the flower wine monk's inheritance, I might be able to improve my talent. Those rare talent trays in goo worms, they might be part of the inheritance. If I inherit this fortune and become a rank 4 or 5 Gu master, I'd be able to contest with Jia Fu. Wait, I almost forgot. There's an outsider, what should I do? Should I split the inheritance with him? No, kill him. Only by killing him can I protect this secret. Yes, I should calm him down first and lie that we're going to split the treasure. Getting rid of his guard, then assaulting him and killing him here. This place is so hidden, it's great. Even if I kill him, nobody would know. Although he thought of all these, it was merely a moment in real life. Having a plan, he squinted and revealed a fake smile. He slowly turned around and faced Fang Yuan, but just as he was about to speak, he saw 2 blue moonblades flying towards him. His pupils dilated into the size of a pin. The distance was too small, he could not respond in time. His voice came to a halt. The moonblade aimed accurately for his neck, and in an instant his skull flew into the air, fresh blood pouring out like a fountain. After 2 seconds, his corpse plopped on the ground. The scalding blood poured on the mountain walls, dyeing the withering vines red. Don't think so much when killing people. Fang Yuan looked at the corpse plainly and then shifted his gaze towards the image wall. To think there was such a twist here. How interesting, he muttered as his eyes emitted an eerie glow. The rain crashed down heavily. Gray clouds covered the sky, and the continuous mountains far away blended into a mass of black ink. The rain curtain interwove the heavens and earth together. Crack! The sky flashed bright abruptly, and a bolt of lightning cut across the sky like a silver snake. Then in an instant it was gone. Summer was approaching, and the end of spring's heavy rain seemed to bring about a trace of the warmth of summer. On Qingmao Mountain, huge expanses of jade-green spear bamboo stood tall and straight, resisting the winds and rain, the bodies of the bamboo straight like a spear as ever, the tips of the bamboo pointing towards the blue sky dome. In the Gu Yue village, row upon row of innumerable tall pillared houses endured against the great rain's washing. Outside the village, the caravan had already set out on their journey once again. The rain is heavy, take note of the pavement. Don't fall behind, Gu masters better pull your Gu properly, especially the fat beetle, don't block the mountain road anymore. You bunch of mortal martial fighters, better open your eyes wide and pay careful attention. Lose a single thing and you'll be paying for that. There was an endless stream of shouts rising and falling in succession from the merchant caravans. After stopping over at the Gu Yue village for 3 days, it was time for this merchant caravan to leave the place and follow the mountain path through Qingmao Mountain and head for their next destination. The heavy rain cleansed the heaven and earth, and the roads surrounding the village were paved with cobblestone. This was still all right. However, after around 500 meters, the roads would turn into a muddy and narrow mountain path. The head of the proud ostrich chicken was drooping, its colorful rainbow feathers soaking wet under the rain, sticking into clumps, becoming the example of a drenched and bedraggled chicken. The fat beetle worm moved its fat, huge body, walking extremely slow forward. The rainwater beat upon its black armor, forming streams of water flow, sliding down both sides of its body onto the earth. The shaggy mountain spider was also drenched, and its green-black colored fur were adhered together. On the contrary, the toad Gu were happily calling out, carrying out the load, and Gu masters, hopping forward on the mountain. And the winged snake had already put away its wings, the thick snake's body cheerfully traveling on the muddy water. To protect the goods and prevent them from getting drenched wet by the rainwater, the Gu masters were showing their magical abilities at the moment. On a few enormous fat beetles stood Gu masters in the middle. Their 2 hands were raised high, each of them having a one-stretch golden light worm floating in midair 1 inch away from their palms. The green-copper primeval essence was like stream evaporating as it concentrated into the one-stretch golden light worm's bodies. The entire Gu flashed like a golden beam, acting as the heart, supporting a tremendous faint gold-colored bubble dome. The hemisphere-shaped bubble dome had a rather huge scope. It was able to completely cover 1 fat beetle worm and still have some leftover space. As the rain smashed upon the bubble dome, it would bounce away, just like hitting on an umbrella. However, this sort of one-stretch golden light worm continuously consumed primeval essence, and in the long run the rank 1 Gu masters would not be able to take it anymore. As expected, after a while, a Gu master shouted, "No more, my primeval essence is almost exhausted, who can take over?" "I can." Almost simultaneously, a Gu master rushed forward and replaced his position. A few Gu masters pulling the carriages, or riding the mountain spiders, activated the green silk Gu in their bodies. Under its influence, their hair started to grow furiously. A normal person's hair had at least 100,000 strands. 100,000 strands of hair, each being 5 to 6 meters, intertwining and covering the Gu master's body along with the steed, formed an impenetrable hair raincoat. The green silk goo was a rank 1 goo worm, often used for defense. It uses 30% of green copper primeval essence to activate, and was not a continuous expenditure type like the one-stretch golden light worm. This green silk goo can be combined with the rank 1 black boar goo to become the rank 2 black mane goo. The black mane goo, when activated, would not only involve hair on the head, but also hair on all the pores. Within a few seconds, the goo master's body would gain a black mane protective armor. The black mane goo's advancement path was the rank 3 famous goo, steel mane goo. Other than the one-stretch golden light worm and green silk goo, many of the caravan goo masters also chose the water spider goo. It can be seen that there was a thin layer of blue raincoat on their bodies. On the raincoat's surface, the water circulated randomly. As the raindrops hit onto the raincoat, it would immediately become part of the raincoat. Since the goo masters were continuously soaking under the raincoat on their bodies would grow thicker. Every now and then the goo masters would have to urge the water spider goo and discharge away the excess water. At this moment, the thick raincoats would be reduced to the original thin layer. As for those mortal warriors, they were constantly on the move, watching over the goods on the muddy road. Most of them wore raincoats made of straw, but in their rush and confusion the straw raincoats had limited effect from avoiding the rain, so they were already drenched wet by the rainwater. This accursed weather, the warriors curse it in their hearts. In the rainy weather, the mountain trail becomes even harder to walk on. Under this weather, martial artists might be strong physically, but they are still mortals. Once their bodies are drenched by rain and coupled with intensive labor, they would easily catch a cold. Getting a serious illness was the lightest consequence. Perhaps they might catch repercussions, and if they catch a certain tough disease, it might cause them to get gravely ill and abandoned on the trip itself. If they encounter slippery roads on the mountain trails, or encounter wild beasts and goo worms attacks, they might lose their lives. The caravan may be big and have many goo masters, but every time they went on a journey, there would always be a great decrease in numbers. Mortal martial artists die the most, while goo masters also have injuries and casualties. If the caravan was unlucky enough to encounter large-scale migrating beasts, they might even get wiped out completely. Other than natural disasters, there were also human-caused problems. Among the villages, there might be those who do not welcome the caravan. Some villages like to rob the outsiders. "We're leaving, see you next year." Some of the goo masters sat on the goo worms and turned their bodies to bid farewell. At the entrance of the village, many people gathered as they sent the caravan off with their gazes. "You must come again next year." Reluctant to see them depart, the children shouted loudly. The adults had more complicated expressions. "The road ahead is unforeseen." In these hard times, for those who are able to come to the village next year, how many would still be familiar faces? Be it at the merchant caravan or in the village, it is not easy to earn a living. As the caravan left further and further, as the crowd dispersed, the cheerful and light-hearted market atmosphere had also subsequently disappeared. The original spot that had erected tents and shops was left now with a huge mess. The grass turf had been walked upon continuously by the crowd, grassroots and mud soil trampled out. The rainwater hit on its surface, immediately forming mud and numerous little potholes that collected muddy water. In addition to that, there was a lot of garbage left over. Fang Yuan stood on a secluded hillside, watching the merchant caravan from far away alone. The merchant caravan was like a fat and colorful flower python, snaking through the narrow mountain road under the gray heavy rain, slowly entering the dense mountain forest. "Ah, the heavens are sending their blessings," Fang Yuan sighed lightly. He held a butter-yellow paper umbrella, quietly standing in the rain. Fang Yuan wore the most plain flax cloth garment, his body slim, his skin bringing about the pale whiteness of a 15-year-old teenager, a settled clump of clean and short black hair atop his head. The ends of his hair trembled slightly in the wind under his umbrella. While others cursed the weather, he was lamenting the timely appearance of the rain. He killed Jia Jin Sheng last night and cleaned up the scene, but because it happened so unexpectedly, there was bound to be areas of neglect. Especially with the bloody smell, because the cave is not ventilated, the smell could not disperse easily. With this rain, it cleaned up the air and environment, greatly reducing the chances of getting exposed by smell tracking methods. The crack was bound to have a small cascade of water flowing down, and once the fresh water vapor diluted the air, he would not be exposed for the short time being. Of course, once time passes, the chance of getting exposed increases. In this world there were all sorts of goo worms, and investigative methods were abundant. Even Fang Yuan only knew a portion of them. The rain produced pitter-patter sounds as it hit on the yellow umbrella. Then, following the shape of the umbrella, streams of water flowed down onto the limestones beneath Fang Yuan's feet, hitting and creating splashes. Seeing the caravan curve into a corner, completely disappearing into the forests, Fang Yuan did not show a sign of relief, but instead looked grim. Although Jia Jin Sheng's cultivation was weak and had little talent, he had a special status. The caravan's people are all busy with business, thus no one found out that he's missing. But once some time passes, it'd definitely be found out. By then, Jia Fu would return to investigate, and the real challenge would be then. The Jia family had intentionally arranged Jia Jin Sheng and Jia Fu to be on the same caravan. He had deep intentions. In terms of cultivation, they are worlds apart. In terms of cunningness, they're also incomparable. Such an arrangement is to inflict a blow to Jia Jin Sheng and let him be clear of reality and live life peacefully. At the same time, he is testing Jia Fu's nature, for if he is too overbearing on Jia Jin Sheng, how can he hand the position of clan head to him? Jia Jin Sheng never truly understood his father's intentions. Although he had some intelligence, he only managed to scratch the surface of a merchant's wits. What a pity! A pity of such a good pawn piece. Fang Yuan felt regrettable in his heart. With 500 years of experience, he could easily see past the surface and understand the true nature of the situation. When he saw the dispute between the two that night, he could tell the complicated relationship between Jia Jin Sheng and Jia Fu, and thus he had a vague plan formed in his heart from then on. In his plan, Jia Jin Sheng was a very suitable pawn. His cultivation was weak, but he held a high position in the caravan, and although he had some wits, he had little experience, thus Fang Yuan could easily manipulate him. Once controlled, this pawn would be extremely useful. For one, he could build a strong network of smuggling through his relationship, preparing up for usurping treasures from future killings. Secondly, Fang Yuan could hide in the background and use the image wall to stir up conflict among the Qing Mao Mountain's three families, causing a civil war and enabling him to be able to reap the rewards. Thirdly, Fang Yuan could rely on him to make his way into the Jia family interior. The future Jia family dispute caused a large-scale Gu fighting competition. It will be a huge affair with lots of benefits to gain. Fang Yuan could make use of this to acquire the greatest reward for himself. My cultivation is still too low, restraining me greatly in doing things. If there was a pawn for me to use, I can do some things that I cannot attempt myself. It is not only convenient but also lowers the risk of doing so. If I get exposed, I can simply discard the pawn and stay safe myself. The surrounding people know the situation well and are loyal to the family, thus they aren't good to manipulate. Only an outsider like Jia Jin Sheng can be used more efficiently to execute my plans. Unfortunately, I did not expect the Flower Wine Monk to leave behind his power inheritance. The Flower Wine Monk is a rank 5 Gu master. His inheritance is definitely more valuable than this pawn. Of course, it'd be good if he could get the best of both worlds, but in face of such treasure, Jia Jin Sheng could not longer be controlled, thus he had to be discarded. Nothing will go smoothly forever in this world. Fang Yuan sighed and shook his head. The flower wine monk's inheritance appeared and disrupted Fang Yuan's original plans. In addition, after the changes to the image wall, the videos and images were all gone, only showing a line written in blood, telling Fang Yuan to destroy the image wall and reveal a cavern entrance. Following the trail, he would be able to get the inheritance. The blood writing only appeared for a few breaths before vanishing, and the image wall also turned back into the most ordinary mountain wall. Fang Yuan spent the entire night cleaning up the murder scene and had no time to break the wall. Killing Jia Jin Sheng in a hurry, this would leave many problems for me in the future, and I am but only temporarily safe. Although I succeeded in getting rid of the evidence, there is bound to be trouble coming for me in the future. In this case, I would have to change my way of exposing the liquor worm. I cannot go to the secret cave behind the wall crack either. I have to stay in the mountain village for some time to anticipate investigation in the near future. Fang Yuan turned around and held his umbrella, walking in the rain towards the village. But this is fine too. I can spend a large amount of primeval stones during this period to refine to middle stage primeval essence. Using it, I can nurture my aperture and break through into the middle stage. Once I reach the middle stage, my power will double, allowing me to get the inheritance more easily and with greater confidence. A demonic cultivator's inheritance was not as mild and gentle as a righteous cultivator, for there was often dangerous tests and tasks, and if one cannot get through, they'd have to pay the price with their life. The world is hard to predict, but it is precisely this that makes it interesting. Fang Yuan smiled coldly. The green mountain beneath the heavy rain extended continuously and unending, its green mixed with gray, appearing stifling and heavy. A gust of wind blew, and the raindrops inclined a little, hitting onto Fang Yuan's shoulder and attacking him with a burst of chilliness. He thought about Jia Jin Sheng again. Sighing in his heart, he thought, Jia Jin Sheng, actually I did not want to kill you. What a waste of a good pawn. It rained for 4 days before stopping. The sun rose high into the sky, tearing away the rain curtain, seemingly like it was unveiling summer itself. The breath of summer had faintly started to come around. The weather became increasingly sunny and cloudless, sweeping away the sentimental breath of spring, and the temperatures slowly rose. In the night of spring, the lively dragonpill crickets had retreated, cowering away into the deep ground to lay eggs. The green spear bamboo specially found on Qingmao Mountain had started to grow wildly, and nearly every day it would show an obvious increase in height. The grass and the trees began to change from emerald green into a dark green color. The never-ending green mountains started to look even more verdant and lush. The weather was clear for thousands of miles, blue like a crystal. Bang, bang, bang. At the training grounds in the academy, sounds of punches and kicks could be heard. After exchanging over 10 blows, Gu Yue Mo Bei was kicked in the abdomen by Fang Yuan, taking 5 to 6 steps backwards, leaving the designated circle drawn in the arena. The martial arts instructor stood before the stage and evaluated the situation. Seeing this, he immediately declared, Gu Yue Mo Bei has exited the stage. Gu Yue Fang Yuan wins for the 33rd consecutive time. HMPH, I lost to you again. Gu Yue Mo Bei gritted his teeth, his eyes staring right at Fang Yuan. But don't be arrogant. One day I will defeat you. I can already feel it, that day is nearing. Fang Yuan looked at him expressionlessly, and then his eyelids drooped downwards. That kick earlier caused you to have internal bleeding. I'd advise you to treat that injury first. This small injury is nothing. Gu Yue Mo Bei was retorting halfway, when suddenly his expression changed and his throat gulped, vomiting a mouthful of blood. His face was pale. This was the first time he suffered this level of injury. His eyes could not help but show signs of fear. The martial arts instructor hurried over and pacified him. "Don't worry about this level of injury. You just need to rest for a few days. Just stop practicing your punches and do not do vigorous exercises during this period." The moment he finished saying so, two healing Gu masters who were waiting outside rushed over and meticulously helped Gu Yue Mobei out. Gu Yue Mobei did not dare to say anything else, but he looked at Fang Yuan deeply in his eyes, filled with anger, hatred, regret, and indignance. Mobei has good martial techniques, but he couldn't beat Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan is too good, basically no one can beat him. Mobei actually vomited blood. How scary. I don't want to fight a guy like this. Sigh, but the instructor said today is practice combat, up on the arena. Each of us needs to go up and fight once. The students stood outside the arena, some looking towards Fang Yuan in fear, some sighing non-stop. Some were pale while others felt trepidation. Among them some were injured. A few held their bruised faces, some held their limbs, gasping for breath. Others laid on the ground, rubbing their thigh. Next, seeing that there were no challengers coming up, the instructor yelled. However, no one answered. Usually those who were courageous to challenge Fang Yuan were only Gu Yue Mobei, Gu Yue Kai Chen, and Gu Yue Fang Zheng. But these three were already beaten. Silence swept across the students as others even retracted their steps slightly. The instructor frowned on seeing their fearful expression. He could not help but think of the academy elder's words. These days, Fang Yuan has gotten too dominant. We have to suppress him. The other students cannot even raise their heads under his pressure, and if this goes on, the courage in their hearts will be simmered. Our academy nurtures courageous tigers and wolves to fight enemies, not fearful sheep and lambs. What's wrong with all of you? No matter how strong he is, Fang Yuan is only 15 years old. He's one of your peers. He has the same age as you, eats the same food as you, and drinks the same water. He does not have 3 heads or 6 arms. He's not a monster. Pluck up your courage and show me the pride of the Gu Yue clan within you. The instructor yelled, trying his best to motivate the students. But he is too strong. We cannot beat him. The classmates who fought him are in such a pitiful state. Mobei got beaten until he vomited blood. Fang Yuan is getting more ruthless with his strikes. Instructor, we do not dare to fight him. The students spoke softly, weakly retorting. The instructor was stomping with anger. These ignorant youngsters. He was clear as a bystander. Fang Yuan had gone through 33 consecutive fights without any rest in the middle. Although he was constantly adjusting his breathing, his stamina had already depleted. Fang Yuan's attacks getting merciless proves this fact even further. He could no longer take it easy like before. He is losing control of his strength and the situation. If someone tries harder, his fatigue will be revealed. With just a few more people, he could be defeated on the stage. Once Fang Yuan is beaten, his dominating presence will be reduced sharply, the students' courage ignited, and the motive to suppress Fang Yuan achieved. But now, the students were deterred by Fang Yuan's tough front. At times, what defeats a person is not a strong enemy, but one's own heart. The instructor was anxious in his thoughts and continued to motivate them. But he was not good with his words. In the beginning, he said these same words to ignite the hot-bloodedness in the youngsters and stirred up some challengers. But now that he had said this so many times, the youngsters are all numb already. Fang Yuan folded his arms and stared at this coldly. Although he was standing in the center of the stage, he was acting like a complete bystander. The instructor encouraged for ages, but the students were still looking at each other. Not one had moved. The martial instructor could not help but be angry and helpless. He turned to Fang Yuan, unhappily chiding, "Fang Yuan, you're also at fault. Your blows are getting more vicious among classmates. You should be more gentle and friendly. How can you deal such vicious blows? Be careful from now on and attack carefully. If you cause another classmate to vomit blood, I will declare your loss and evict you from the stage. Instructor, you are wrong. Fang Yuan snorted, his gaze not showing any weakness, looking right at the instructor. Practicing and fighting, we naturally have to give it our all, otherwise how can it achieve the aim of training? Don't tell me that when we are in battle, we also have to request our enemies to be more gentle and friendly. The instructor flew into a rage. HMPH, your attacks are vicious. You are harming your classmates and you dare to use twisted logic. Instructor, you're wrong again. Fang Yuan laughed coldly. You arranged this practice match and raised the winning prize to 20 primeval stones. Without your encouragement, would these people have gotten hurt? Bastard, the martial arts instructor was not good with words, and he pointed at Fang Yuan and scowled. Do you still want the prize or not? If you argue any further, even if you get first place, I will declare you a loser. You are so uncooperative and antisocial, and you dare to argue with your teachers. You have no rights to claim the 20 primeval stones as reward. Fang Yuan laughed heartily. It is but a competition that merely gives 20 primeval stones. Do you think I give a damn? Saying so, he turned around and left. Under the class' distraught gaze, he walked out of the center of arena. Although he did not manage to sell the image wall, Fang Yuan still had several hundreds of primeval stones in his possession. Furthermore, his aim this time was not primeval stones. Seeing Fang Yuan really walking down the stage, the instructor was stunned without words, showing an expression of shock and confusion. A 15-year-old teenager, shouldn't he be competitive and full of vigor? Fang Yuan having such fighting talents, shouldn't his character be even more so? How could he just back out of the competition like this? Furthermore, Fang Yuan has no background. He should be tight on primeval stones. Why was the 20 primeval stones unable to attract him? At this point, the martial arts instructor stood on the spot, unsure of what to do. Fang Yuan did not step into the trap, but left the stage immediately. The instructor suddenly realized there was nothing he could do to Fang Yuan. With his status, he could not find problems with Fang Yuan directly and force him onto the stage right. The surrounding students retreated, maintaining a distance away from Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan stood on the grounds, with no one around him. With him as the center, the radius of 5 steps around him became a vacuum. What a pity! If they were beside Fang Yuan, they would hear Fang Yuan's panting sound. My stamina is depleted, Fang Yuan sighed. Although he showed an energetic outward appearance under his clothes, his body was slightly shivering. After all, he was only 15 years old and had no relevant goo worm as support. After 33 matches, he was close to his limits. Although he had his rich fighting experience from his past life, during this time, the other youngsters' combat abilities had improved significantly. From them, Fang Yuan could already feel a strengthening sense of pressure. This kind of pressure reflected in Fang Yuan's attacks. His attacks got tougher as he gradually lost control of his strength. Compared to the past, when they were still too weak and he could defeat them easily, the youngsters would only end up in minor injuries. But now, his control over the arena was getting weaker, thus he had to strike harder to maintain his image. Experience is, after all, not omnipotent. Any thoughts or technique require a body with sufficient foundation before the value can be apparent. Fang Yuan narrowed his eyes. In actuality, he had long seen through the martial instructor's thoughts. Fang Yuan was not surprised. As if he had expected this from the start, the academy elders' pressure on him. After he killed Gao Wan, the people who dared to challenge him diminished. When he extorted them, even more people oppressed by Fang Yuan's dominance did not dare resist, and they obediently handed over their primeval stones. After a long period, Fang Yuan's unbeatable image would be formed. This would leave some psychological trauma in the youngsters and make them unconfident in their martial arts techniques. This was what the Academy elder did not want to see. He needed Fang Yuan to motivate and force the students to improve, not to completely extinguish their passion for battle. He wanted to see Fang Yuan's defeat. Once Fang Yuan was defeated, the image of invincibility that he had erected would be instantly destroyed. At the same time, it would awaken the students' fighting spirit. After some setbacks, it would mold their wills to be indomitable. But to Fang Yuan, he needed this form of pressure so that he could extort primeval stones with greater ease. If he was defeated, the youngsters would realize his weakness and attack together at once. Although Fang Yuan had ample of primeval stones in his hands, extortion was his main source of income. Without this source, he would be digging into his reserves. Thus, Fang Yuan's appearance in the arena and 33 consecutive victories was merely to maintain his deterrence towards the students, and not for the 20 primeval stones reward. If he avoided combat from the start, it would show his weakness, and if it raged on, he would expose his weakness. What are you all waiting for? Why is nobody getting up on the stage? Go on. The first prize is 20 primeval stones. You all don't want it anymore, the instructor yelled after snapping out of his thoughts. The rest of the students began to get motivated. Fang Yuan had already left the stage, and to them, it was a huge rock off their minds. I'll go. I'll come. Two youngsters squeezed their way up the stage and began to spar. If I had known this, I would have waited and not rushed up the stage. Then I would not have been thrown off the stage by Fang Yuan. What a pity to think Fang Yuan left. He's really daring. See, even the instructor is at a loss for what to do with him. Hearing their whispers, the instructor felt his reputation crumbling. He was extremely agitated in his heart and wanted to punish Fang Yuan thoroughly. However, Fang Yuan had done nothing wrong, and leaving the stage on his own accord was allowed. The instructor was both helpless and moody. Finally, he looked at Fang Yuan and stared angrily at the latter. Fang Yuan's lips slightly curled up into an angle as he thought, such boorish methods, this instructor is a little cute. A pair of solemn eyes were staring at the faraway training grounds. The academy elder stood at the window of the third story, looking at everything that had transpired at the arena. He frowned deeply. The instant Fang Yuan left the stage, he felt a sense of peculiarity in his heart, not expecting Fang Yuan to do this. This lad, he is rather hard to catch. He is proficient in the academy's rules and normally will not commit any wrongdoings. Although he sleeps in class, once he is asked a question he can answer properly, leaving others with no flaws to pick on. Trying to get a hold of a weakness of his to suppress his dominance is going to be difficult. The academy elder could not help but develop a faint sense of loathing towards Fang Yuan. As a teacher, he naturally liked obedient and smart students, and hated those naughty students who did not obey the rules. But being the academy elder for so many years, his experience was extremely rich. He had seen many different types of students. Among them, he had seen extremely obedient ones who followed orders without question. There were also those who caused problems day and night, constantly breaking the rules. His heart had already become still as water, impartial to all. At the same time, he carved the phrase as a teacher. One must treat all students fairly, onto the right corner of his desk, treating it as his motto. He had never felt such disgust for a student. Feeling that sense of detest in his heart, the academy elder was also slightly shocked. In previous years, even towards the most naughty students, he was able to handle it with a big heart, tolerating their actions. But when it came to Fang Yuan, why did he lose this sense of impartialness? He thought about it again and again, and finally realized the reason. This lad called Fang Yuan, He had a form of arrogance in his blood. It seemed from the fundamentals that Fang Yuan did not respect his teachers for their status. Towards the martial arts instructor earlier, he not only disobeyed him, but even rebuked him in public. Actually, such cases of retorting against teachers were commonly seen in previous years. However, those kids always had an agitated state of mind. They were either rebellious, furious, or stubborn, etc. The academy elder was clear that the more agitated the youngsters were, the more it implied that they were fearful in their hearts. But Fang Yuan was not. He had no fear in his heart at all, as if he had seen through the tricks of the academy. His expression was aloof, and even after he left the stage, his expression showed no signs of changing, as if he had done something insignificant. Yes, he treated the matter of disobeying his teachers as a trivial matter that was insignificant. In simple terms, he was not afraid. It was just this point that caused the academy elder to already feel unhappy, developing a sense of disgust for him. The academy elder could endure a student more rebellious than Fang Yuan, or a teenager 10 times naughtier than him. That was because these students knew fear and were moving based on their agitated emotions. As long as they were fearful, as long as they were impulsive, they would be easily manipulated and will not go out of control. But Fang Yuan was not. He was calm and uncaring, not treating his teachers with reverence. He was not respectful. Someone who has no reverence for the clan, even if they are nurtured, how can they be useful for the clan? Once they appear this sort of person, they have to be suppressed. They must be suppressed. Otherwise, his existence will create a sense of irresistibility in the students. In the long run, it will affect the others, causing them to lose their reverence for their teachers. And as the academy, how else are we going to manage the students? The academy elder squinted his eyes, making up the decision in his mind. But then, his face showed a troubled expression very quickly. How was he going to suppress Fang Yuan? Fang Yuan had done nothing wrong. There was no weakness that he could exploit. Fang Yuan's cunning demeanor gave him a sense of helplessness. He had never met a student like this, one who was so familiar with the academy's rules and regulations. As the academy elder, he was always impartial to all students. He could not be like a slum gangster and purposely find trouble with a youngster like Fang Yuan. He had placed his hopes on the martial arts instructor, but now he was deeply disappointed. It seems that to suppress Fang Yuan's domination, we can only wait until all the other students advance to rank 1 middle stage. A Gu master's advancement is mostly influenced by their talents. With his rich experience as the academy elder, he had calculated before in his heart. The ones who had the greatest chance to advance first are Gu Yue Fang Zheng, Kai Chen, and Mo Bei. They were in a rank and 2B grades respectively, and with their elders' help behind them, they had no lack of primeval stones. No matter which one of the three, they were mostly likely to be the first to advance to rank 1 middle stage cultivation. Gu Yue Fang Zheng, Kai Chen, and Mo Bei, these three are our hopeful seeds this season. The academy elder looked at the arena and sighed. With his experienced gaze, he could tell. In the arena, although the students seemed to be standing casually, they had subtly already split into 3 factions. In one circle was Gu Yue Kai Chen and a bunch of similarly aged clansmen, all crowding around him. The second circle's core was Gu Yue Fang Zheng, and the clan leader's faction's younger generation were subtly supporting this A-grade talent genius. The third circle was led by Gu Yue Mo Bei. He had already been treated of his internal injury and stood on the arena with a pale face. The classmates beside him were asking him about his condition. This is the meaning of letting them compete with each other. Seeing the 3 factions, the academy elder was overjoyed and laughed. Allowing the students free rein to compete, this was not just to nurture their battle senses, but also to prematurely choose the leader-type characters. In past seasons, they had to wait until the end of the year to have the capacity to develop their own circles. But in this year, because of Fang Yuan's appearance, his extortion had brought forth the divergence much faster. Against Fang Yuan, the only ones who dared to compete against him were Fang Zheng, Mo Bei, and Kai Chen. After a long time under imperceptible influence, the other youngsters would automatically regard these three as the leaders. As long as there were no mishaps, these three social circles would be the layout of the future family's higher-ups. But these factions are still not stable. Within them, there are still students moving around. Once the three take the lead and advance to the middle stage first, I will give them the positions of class chairman and vice chairman. With that differentiation, they would gain authority, and this will strengthen their social circles, the Academy elder thought. Of course, there was someone not within either factions. Just one person, and that was Fang Yuan. Getting close to stronger people is human nature. In fact, although Fang Yuan extorted the students and acted against the students, there were a number of youngsters who wanted to attach themselves to him. However, they were rejected by Fang Yuan. To him, only those who were useful were pawns, and these youngsters had too little value. This was also another reason the Academy elder hated Fang Yuan. He was too antisocial, not willing to integrate into the team. To such people like him, the clan's control over them was not as much as the other youngsters. The Academy elder's gaze once again shot towards Fang Yuan in the arena. Fang Yuan stood alone at one corner with his hands behind his back, his eyelids slightly closed, allowing the students to fight for their prize. Even with the heated competition, his expression did not change the slightest. His surrounding was vacant. No youngster was willing to stand with him. Very evidently, he also did not wish for these people to be near him. Fang Yuan stood there alone, enshrouded in loneliness. He floated outside the factions. But I don't have to be too worried. This Fang Yuan is still young and can be changed slowly. The Academy elder's gaze shone, and he thought deeply. Next up will be the establishment of the class chairman and vice chairman. A year later, we will split into groups, creating team leaders and assistant leaders. Every academic year also has all sorts of honor and rewards, like the Small Red Flower Award, Blue Neckcloth Prize, and 5 Outstanding Student Prize. He wants to cultivate, so he needs resources. Thus he has to compete for these positions and prizes. As time passes, with interaction among the students, he is bound to have kinship, friendship, and love as his restraints. I don't have to worry about him going beyond the clan's control. These years, the Academy elder had gradually understood something. When a new clan member is born, they would be brainwashed by the clan. First, they would be taught the clan's utmost value system. Next, they would go into moral education and learn about the beauty and importance of kinship, friendship, love. After that, they would be taught honor, and in the process of growing up, many resources such as prizes would be used to attract them. Using the family's assigned roles, they would choose and recruit the most loyal clansmen into their factions. Do not look down on the small roles like chairman or vice chairman, for once they become one of these roles, they would be part of the clan's administration. Under such a system with constant influence, on one hand it brings about the benefits of having authority and the sweetness of power, while on the other hand, it brings the problem of detaching from the system. A carrot in hand and a stick in the other, who can break away from this system. Even the wildest of people or the most lonesome ones would gradually become a part of the family. One without loyalty would also be nurtured into one with loyalty. Without kinship, friendship, or love, they would still be developed. This is the power of the system. This is the power of rules. This is the clan's way of survival. Nightfall arrived. The moon was like a silver plate appearing among the clouds. The thinly spread stars decorated the surroundings. Gu Yue Mobe stood in the courtyard, raising his head up, his eyes glistening under the reflection of the moon. "Little brother, I heard you got injured today." Behind him, his sister Gu Yue Mo Yan's voice resounded. "Sister, you are worried that after being beaten till I vomited blood today, I would have long-lasting trauma." Mo Bei turned around and curled his lips. Seeing her brother laughing, Mo Yan's heart felt at ease. Although she had truly worried, she said instead, "No way, big sis here understands you best. Good brother, you have an indomitable will, the future head of our Mo family. How can you be frightened off by such a small injury?" "Heh, I knew sister doted on me the most." Mo Bei scratched the back of his head as he laughed sheepishly. "You know what, sister?" Under the glow of the moonlight, this 15-year-old teenager's eyes radiated brightly. "Although I failed this time, I heard Fang Yuan panting during the match. Back then he easily beat me in 2 or 3 strikes with a calm and composed manner. But his gasping already revealed his weakness. He is definitely not as strong as everyone else thinks. One day, I will defeat him fair and square." "Good, as expected of a good man from my Mo bloodline." Mo Yan laughed, patting her brother's head, showing concern on her face. "However, you suffered internal injuries, so please don't practice your martial arts these few days." "Don't touch my head, sister, I am already old enough." Mo Bei shrugged his head, using an unhappy tone. "I understand what you are saying, I have a plan. These few days, I'm going to nurture my aperture walls. To completely break through from initial stage to middle stage and obtain the position of class chairman, and suppress Fang Yuan's dominance. I'll let him know that what truly matters to a Gu master's cultivation is still talent." "I'm glad you can think this way. I was only a vice chairman last time. If you manage to become chairman, it will fulfill my regrets too." "Don't worry, sister. The position of chairman, I certainly must obtain it." At the same time, in the Kai family. Inside the secret room, there was only one torch, attached to an opening in the limestone walls. The flame burned on, illuminating this small room. One of the 2 elders in power, Gu Yue Kai Lion, was sitting facing his grandson, Gu Yue Kai Cheng. The 2 sat on a praying mat with their shadows projected on the ground, wavering with the flickering of the flame. Gu Yue Kai Lion stretched out his hand, using his palm to touch Kai Cheng's abdomen area. Gu Yue Kai Chen's face was full of anxiety, his mind entering his aperture, suppressing the ripples in his primeval sea with all his concentration. In this world, there are no 2 identical tree leaves. Similarly to Gu masters, there is no identical primeval essence as well. Once primeval essence from an external source enters the aperture, it will result in the natural resistance of the original primeval essence in the aperture. If Gu Yue Kai Cheng does not suppress it, and instead allows his primeval essence to resist, it will result in a clash between the essences. Such intensive reaction can cause great damage to the aperture. The aperture's primeval sea is the foundation and roots of a Gu master's cultivation, and is of utmost importance. Once the aperture is damaged, at the very least one's cultivation may lower, but if it is severe, their latent talent may be lowered as well. Once the aperture is completely shattered, the Gu master would die immediately. After a while, Gu Yue Kai Lion gradually stopped transmitting his primeval essence, slowly taking back his hand. Gu Yue Kai Cheng took a deep breath of relief, his tense body relaxing. "Thank you, grandfather, for nurturing my aperture and transfusing primeval essence to me every 3 days. It has been hard on you." Gu Yue Kai Lion's forehead was full of sweat and he sighed and said, "This is inevitable. Your talent is only C grade, so if we rely on your ability alone to rise to middle stage, it'll take a long time. The time will usually be twice of a B grade and 4 times of an A grade. In such a situation, your talent will be exposed. Thus, even if this method is dangerous, we have to use it." Grandson understands grandfather's intentions. As long as you understand. The old man sighed. This method also has another sequela. After your aperture has been nurtured by my silver primeval essence, although the silver primeval essence has a greater effect, it is still an external source of primeval essence to you. Henceforth, even if your aperture walls change from a light wall to a water wall, it would still be mixed with my energy. The more external energy there is, the more impure your aperture will be, and this will stifle your talent, limiting your development in the future. Gu Yue Kai Cheng bit his lips. Grandfather, for the future of the Kai family, I am willing to sacrifice my future prospects. Gu Yue Kai Lion was pleased, stroking his beard. It is good that you have such thoughts, but the heavens always leave a glimmer of hope for you are not hopeless yet. If we can find the cleansing water Gu, it will be able to cleanse your aperture walls and flush out all the external energies in your aperture sea, removing this sequela. In addition, I have also used my relationships to search for a liquor worm for you. This worm is able to help a rank 1 Gu master refine their primeval essence and raise it by one small realm. In this way, the primeval essence that is refined will be your body's own primeval essence and not an external one. Using this way to nurture your aperture leaves no repercussions and risks. It is a much better nurturing effect. Gu Yue Kai Lion was overjoyed. Thank you, grandfather. However, the liquor worm is hard to find. Among the rank 1 Gu worms, the liquor worm, boar Gu, and bookworm, etc., are all extremely rare Gu. Once they appear in the market, they would be snatched up immediately. Of course, there are also some Gu in this world that are rumored to change a Gu master's talent. But at this age, grandfather has never seen one, only hearing occasional rumors about them. The old man explained. The night winds blew in gently from the windows and into the room. Gu Yue Fang Zheng sat on his bed with his eyes shut, holding a primeval stone in both hands. The green-copper primeval sea was raging without any winds, the waves crashing towards the white aperture walls. He has a grade-rank talent, and his primeval essence occupied 80% of the aperture. His natural rate of recovery was twice of Fang Yuan. With such God-blessed advantage, he is already close to rank 1 middle stage. Phew! A while later, Gu Yue Fang Zheng puffed out a breath of air and opened his eyes. The moon was bright and stars sparse outside the window, the bluish-green bamboo houses arranged in a line. A scene of peace and harmony. Time always flies when cultivating. In the blink of an eye, it is already late into the night, Fang Zheng muttered softly. He slowly opened his hands, and 2 piles of rock powder fell onto the floor in front of his bed. After a primeval stone's essence had been fully retrieved, it would turn into a pile of powder. Looking at the powder pile, Fang Zheng frowned. He took out his money bag. It was already close to empty. Opening it, he saw 3 primeval stones left inside. Fang Zheng would retrieve 3 pieces every 7 days from the academy as resources, but since Fang Yuan would snatch a piece from him, he only had 2 left every week. Uncle and aunt would also give him living expenses, but it was also 3 stones every 7 days. Just with these primeval stones, how is it enough? Fang Zheng was determined to surpass his brother Fang Yuan. Thus he took the initiative to approach his uncle and aunt multiple times to beg for some primeval stones. After many times, his aunt would look for him to have a heart-to-heart chat, telling him about how poor the family was and how they had cash flow difficulties, having no spare money left. Since then, Fang Zheng did not have the desire to continue asking. Father and mother are already doing all they can to support my cultivation. I cannot make things difficult for them and ask for more primeval stones. I only have 3 left. I can only be more thrifty. If I use 1 piece a day, I'll have enough for 3 days. I have a feeling that in 3 or 4 days, I will definitely advance to middle stage. The only thing is, what is Big Brother's progress now? Thinking so, Fang Zheng subconsciously looked towards to Academy living quarters. I have a grade talent. While Big Brother only has C-grade talent, his speed is definitely slower than me. Big Brother is not my match this time. Big Brother, I will let you know the true power of an A-grade talent. Thinking of this, Fang Zheng clenched his fists. Ali. Academy dormitory. Fang Yuan's door was shut tight. In the darkness, he was not asleep, but sitting on his bed. A Gu master's cultivation cannot replace sleep. Normally at this time, Fang Yuan would already have fallen asleep. But in cultivating earlier today, he already felt that he was just one step away from middle stage. I might as well not sleep tonight, I'll rush straight for middle stage. His eyes shone with determination. Soon after, he shut his eyes, and his mind went into the aperture. 44% of green copper primeval C. Just a moment ago, they were all refined into pale green-colored middle-stage primeval essence by the liquor worm. Rise. With a thought, the peaceful green copper primeval sea began to stir. The commotion got larger and larger, until waves were formed. Splash, splash, splash. The tides raced against each other, rushing towards the surrounding aperture walls. Like crashing on a reef, most of the primeval essence would break into emerald ripples and fuse back into the sea. A small amount of primeval essence was expended, turning into a small hint of invisible energy, penetrating into the white-colored light aperture wall. Rise again, Fang Yuan thought as the emerald ripples became larger in scale. The waves earlier were like rabbits and dogs, but now they were like troops of horses, marching towards the aperture walls. A horse-like dragon, the waves like the heavens. The primeval essence was expended quickly, and the water level fell sharply. Splash, splash, splash. The waves struck relentlessly, finally resulting in a change. The white-colored wall shook suddenly, the originally mild white color radiating an eye-piercing brilliance. Seeing this scene, Fang Yuan was overjoyed as he knew that the crucial part had arrived, and he quickly activated all of his primeval essence to rush at the walls. The white light grew brighter, the light rays distorted and tangling together, giving people a feeling of thickness. After more than 10 breaths, white strips of light bands appeared on the light wall, and the strips collided with each other like water flowing non-stop. In the process of collision, they continued to combine and merge, forming a white flowing light. Finally, the flowing light gathered into one piece and completely covered the light wall. The white light dimmed, and the original white light wall of the aperture was gone, replaced by a layer of spherical-shaped white water wall. The light wall's surface was smooth with no impurities. The water wall, however, was thicker than the light wall, the ripples of light flowing and flickering on it. The primeval sea regained its peace, the aperture still having 20% primeval essence left. I advanced to middle stage. Fang Yuan laughed heartily, opening his eyes. The bright sunlight creeped in through the openings in the curtains. Unknowingly, the night had passed and it was already morning. Fang Yuan didn't come to class today. Look guys, his seat is empty. He's so bold. Today's lesson is taught by the academy elder, yet he dared to not show up. This is bad, the elder's expression is ugly. It seems that Fang Yuan is in trouble. Heh. In the academy, the youngsters discussed softly. A few glanced towards Fang Yuan's empty seat, as well as the academy elder's darkening expression. Ever since he started the extortion, Fang Yuan stood against everyone in the class. Seeing him in trouble, all the students were excited for what was to come. The academy elder's expression was stiff, as he explained the crux of nurturing the aperture while secretly staring at Fang Yuan's seat. He laughed coldly in his heart. Fang Yuan, oh Fang Yuan. I was still worried about not being able to catch your weak point yesterday, and here you give it to me today. You are after all a 15-year-old teenager. I have overestimated you. His ugly expression was mostly fake. His motive was to use this opportunity to find trouble with Fang Yuan and punish him, eliminating his increasing dominance in class. Undeniably, as time passed, Fang Yuan's dominating presence was getting stronger, causing the other students to be barely catching their breaths. A one-sided dominance was not what the academy elder wanted to see. He wanted to see the entire class shining. Men, the academy elder raised a finger and knocked lightly on the table. Elder, your subjects are here. The two guards standing outside at the door entered. The academy elder snorted in public. This Fang Yuan is getting out of hand, being so lazy and skipping classes right under my nose. Go to the hostel and bring him here for me. Yes, elder. The guards went on their way. Seeing the guards disappear outside the door, the academy burst into discussion noises. Numerous students joined in the conversation. Fang Yuan is in deep shit now, someone said with his eyes shining brightly. Hee, we have a show to watch later. Another laughed in pleasure towards Fang Yuan's misery. Big brother, you are too arrogant. This is challenging the elder's authority. No matter what punishment it is, you had it coming. Gu Yue Fang Zheng looked at the empty seat, sighing internally. Bam, bam, bam. The academy elder, with a strict expression, slammed the desk thrice. Silence, no talking in class. His aura at this moment was like a volcano about to erupt, causing fear in others. Immediately, the academy fell into pin-drop silence. The students fearfully shut up, quickly getting into position. Except, although their expression was so, their thoughts were already deep into this matter. The class continued, the youngsters not concentrating at all. A few students by the window looked out constantly. As time passed, after a while, footsteps could be heard at the door. Instantly the students' ears twitched, tens of eyes showing bright expressions. Arriving, the academy elder heard the footsteps too and narrowed his eyes as a result. He had already thought of how to deal with Fang Yuan. He'll punish him to stand outside for 3 hours. Although the punishment was not heavy, it was enough for him to be humiliated. Throughout lessons, students entering and leaving would see Fang Yuan standing there. This way, it would ruin Fang Yuan's image of invincibility. When the students realized that Fang Yuan was nothing special, the impact he has on them would be greatly reduced. This would result in them gaining courage and stir their competitive spirit. The great part was, since Fang Yuan's punishment came from the academy, this would improve the academy's reputation. Only with reverence will they obey. Thus, while the method is simple, it has deep intentions underneath. The footsteps got closer, and finally someone stood outside the door. Knock, knock, knock. Knocking sounds could be heard. Hee, I will open it. The student near the door volunteered and enthusiastically went to open the door. The academy quietened down, numerous eyes staring at the door. Crack! The door was easily opened by the student, exposing a gap. Sunlight infiltrated from the gap. The student opening the door suddenly froze, shuddering suddenly. AHH! He was stunned for a second before suddenly screaming, subconsciously taking a large step backwards. His body knocked onto the desk and he instantly lost his balance, falling with the table onto the ground. The boy's face was pale, his expression horrified, limbs trembling and unable to exert strength. Lying on the floor, he frantically tried to get up, but fell back down again and again. What's wrong? In a moment everyone was astonished, all of them frowning deeply. Numerous gazes curiously looked towards the door. The door was slowly pushed open by the person outside. The academy elder stopped his lecture out of reflex. What everyone saw first was a hand on the door. A teenager's left hand. A left hand with dripping blood. A bloody hand. Seeing this bloody hand, many of the female students covered their mouths and screamed in terror. The door slowly opened fully. The brightness of the sunlight pricked everyone's eyes, causing them to squint. With the bright sunlight as his background, A dark shadow attached to a thin teenager appeared before everyone. He didn't know why, but the academy elder felt a strong feeling of unease in his heart. "It's Feng Yuan," someone screamed out loudly. Everyone who had gotten used to the sunlight could clearly see who the person was. What met their eyes was Feng Yuan, bathed in blood, standing outside the door as if he had gone through an intense battle. His left hand slowly retracted, his right hand grabbing onto some hair, dragging along a person. The person's left arm was entirely detached from the base. He was lying there motionless, evidently unconscious. Blood on his left shoulder gushed out. "It's one of the guards who went to look for Feng Yuan." Someone recognized the person's identity. What exactly happened? Someone was going berserk. "He murdered again, this time he killed the guards." Someone pointed at Feng Yuan, screaming in horror, getting louder and louder, as if it would purge the terror and fear in his heart. At once, the academy was rowdy. Many students forgot the rules at this time and stood up from their seats. They looked towards Feng Yuan with fear, shock, and nervous expressions. In their imaginations, Feng Yuan would be dragged here by the guards left and right. But the truth was Feng Yuan bathed in blood, his expression cool like a devil approaching. The two guards, one missing while the other lying motionless, blood oozing from his body quickly forming a puddle. A thick scent of blood permeated the academy. The academy elder was stunned. He did not anticipate such a scene. After his shock came intense rage. The two guards were merely external martial artists, so what if they died? The academy elder did not really care. But the crucial point was their identity. They were the academy's guards, representing the academy's prestige, representing the academy elder's face. This Feng Yuan was simply too bold. Not only did he kill Gao Wan, now he even went and murdered the academy's guards. No, this isn't just being bold. He was practically provoking, challenging the clan academy's prestige. The academy elder flew into a rage, pointing at Feng Yuan, screaming, "Feng Yuan, what is this? You have to give me an explanation, a good reason to spare you. If not, with the crime of murdering the guards, you will be thrown in jail, awaiting the clan verdict." The students all shuddered. Even the windows trembled, the entire academy reverberating with the academy elder's screams. Only Feng Yuan was calm-looking. His eyes dyed a deep miasma, behaving like usual, unable to see any change in his emotions. After looking around, Feng Yuan let go of his right arm, and with a plop, the guard's head fell into the puddle of blood, splashing onto Feng Yuan's pants. He cupped his fists towards the academy elder, his calm voice echoing throughout the silent academy. "Academy elder, I truly have something to report." "Speak." The academy elder spoke with both arms behind his back, arching his head as he looked at Feng Yuan, his expression ice-cold. Laughing coldly in his heart, he thought, "Feng Yuan, you're making more and more mistakes, increasing the severity. I'll see how you're going to explain yourself."